She smiles, watch me rearrange it. Every vote, every voice ignite for the mothers who won't lose sight. Lover is Scarlett, rising through the storm and smoke. Voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so loud. A freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold. This is the story, the future told. Scarlett's flame, unbreakable, free. She's the power, the legacy. Moms united, hearts aligned, defending truth, they will not blind. Children's voices light the sky. They're the reason, they're the why. Born to blaze in the northern snow, Wisconsin roots. Watch her grow. Constitution's ink on her soul. Patriot mind control. No, she don't bend, she don't fade. Faith and family foundations laid from freedom halls to every school. She's the queen who rewrites rule. Every Scarlet rising through the storm and smoke. The voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so wild. A freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold. This is the story, the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free. Mom for liberty, eternally. Mom for liberty, eternally. Yeah. Red flame shining bright. Scarlett's name, liberty's light, forever fight. Every Scarlet forever fight. Red flame in the cold night glow. Wisconsin wind and the stars all know. She's got fire where her heart should be. Liberty's call, she answers free. Stepping hills, but she's still inside. No fear, no doubt, she won't hide. Capital lights on a battle cry. A mama lying, watch her rise. Words are weapons, truth a blade. In the chaos, she's unafraid. Standing tall, she breaks the chain. Crimson faith runs through her veins. Oh, they whisper, you can't change it. She smiles, watch me rearrange it. Every vote, every voice ignite for the mothers who won't lose sight. Lover is Scarlet, rising through the storm and smoke. Voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so loud. A freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold. This is the story, the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free. She's the power, the legacy. Moms united, hearts aligned, defending truth, they will not blind. Children's voices light the sky. They're the reason, they're the why. Born to blaze in the northern snow, Wisconsin roots. Watch her grow. Constitution's ink on her soul. Patriot mind control. No, she don't bend, she don't fade. Faith and family foundations laid from freedom halls to every school. She's the queen who rewrites rule. Every Scarlet rising through the storm and smoke. The voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so wild. A freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold. This is the story, the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free. Mom for liberty, eternally. Mom for liberty, eternally. Yeah. Red flame shine. Red flame in the cold night glow, Wisconsin wind and the stars all know. She's got fire where her heart should be, liberty's call, she answers free. Stepping hills, but she's still inside, no fear, no doubt, she won't hide. Capital lights on a battle cry, a mama lying, watch her eyes. Words are weapons, truth a blade, in the chaos she's unafraid. Standing tall, she breaks the chain, crimson faith runs through her veins. Oh, they whisper, you can't change it. She smiles, watch me rearrange it. Every vote, every voice, ignite for the mothers who won't lose sight. Lover scarlet rising through the storm and smoke, voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so loud, a freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold, this is the story the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free, she's the power, the legacy. Moms united, hearts aligned, defending truth, they will not blind. Children's voices light the sky, they're the reason, they're the why. Born to blaze in the northern snow, Wisconsin roots, watch her grow. Constitution's ink on her soul, patriot mind control. No, she don't bend, she don't fade. Faith and family foundations laid, from freedom halls to every school. She's the queen who rewrites rule. Every scarlet rising through the storm and smoke, the voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so wild, a freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold, this is the story the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free, mom for liberty, eternally. Mom for liberty, eternally. Red flame shining bright, Scarlet's name, liberty's light, forever fight. Every scarlet rise, forever fight. Red flame in the cold night glow, Wisconsin wind and the stars all know. She's got fire where her heart should be, liberty's call, she answers free. Stepping hills, but she's still inside, no fear, no doubt, she won't hide. Capital lights on a battle cry, a mama lying, watch her eyes. Words are weapons, truth a blade, in the chaos she's unafraid. Standing tall, she breaks the chain, crimson faith runs through her veins. Oh, they whisper, you can't change it. She smiles, watch me rearrange it. Every vote, every voice, ignite for the mothers who won't lose sight. Lover scarlet rising through the storm and smoke, voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so loud, a freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold, this is the story the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free, she's the power, the legacy. Moms united, hearts aligned, defending truth, they will not blind. Children's voices light the sky, they're the reason, they're the why. Born to blaze in the northern snow, Wisconsin roots, watch her grow. Constitution's ink on her soul, patriot mind control. No, she don't bend, she don't fade. Faith and family foundations laid, from freedom halls to every school. eternally. March for liberty, eternally. Red flame shining bright. Scarlett's name, liberty's light, forever fight. Every scarlet forever fight. Red flame in the cold night glow, Wisconsin wind and the stars all know. She's got fire where her heart should be, liberty's call, she answers free. Stepping hills, but she's still inside, no fear, no doubt, she won't hide. Capital lights on a battle cry, a mama lying, watch her rise. Words are weapons, truth a blade, in the chaos she's unafraid. Standing tall, she breaks the chain, crimson faith runs through her veins. Oh, they whisper, you can't change it. She smiles, watch me rearrange it. Every vote, every voice ignite, for the mothers who won't lose sight. Lover scarlet rising through the storm and smoke, voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so loud, a freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold, this is the story the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free, she's the power, the legacy. Moms united, hearts aligned, defending truth, they will not blind. Children's voices light the sky, they're the reason, they're the why. Born to blaze in the northern snow, Wisconsin roots, watch her grow. Constitution's ink on her soul, patriot mind control. No, she don't bend, she don't fade. Faith and family foundations laid, from freedom halls to every school. She's the queen who rewrites rule. Every scarlet rising through the storm and smoke, voice of reason, every chain she broke. Liberty beats in her chest so wild, a freedom queen, a mother style. Crimson lights, Republican gold, this is the story the future told. Scarlet's flame, unbreakable, free, mom for liberty, eternally. Mom for liberty, eternally. Red flame shining bright. Scarlett's name, liberty's light, forever fight. Every scarlet forever fight.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unleashed. I'm not used to being on a Monday night, but it's great. There's a lot of news, some good news actually, and some very frustrating news. But the song that was playing in the background, my brother wrote that for me, so I love it. It was really fun to listen to, and he made it for me. He just kind of gave it to me a couple days ago, and it's great. It's really cool, like all the things that we can do right now. But so thank you to my brother for that song. It's really inspiring. It made me feel like, wow, let's go. Like, Um, Sometimes you need that boost to just to keep on keeping on in everything that we do. So trying to organize so many things, and I'm sure there, especially I think Mondays, but things can be kind of going slow, and suddenly like the news just comes fast and furious. And right about this time, where I literally right before I got here, I was braising a beef tenderloin. So like the song says, literally like takes the bacon, fries it up in a pan. Yeah, I'm braising roast beef, driving a kid to math tutor, another kid to basketball practice, and then, trying to get dinner started as I do this podcast. So that is the definition of moms for liberty, like juggling many different things, trying to keep family first, but also trying to be a difference in this world and fighting these culture war battles like only a mom can. We are the spirit of the age. The zeitgeist that we're fighting is just this sort of what Jordan Peterson would call like just this corrupt, like feminine, and this energy. It's just so I think that those who can win this current battle, it's going to be us, because we have to go mano a mano against, you know, this corrupt so-called feminine energy that is actually anti-woman, anti-feminine. Um, it's a corruption. It's a corruption of all things that are good, true, and beautiful, and lies that are being spread and told to our young girls in order to maintain power. And a mom, a woman, wife is the soul of every family. So if you can crush women, you can crush the soul of a family. And we can't let that happen, because the power of the power of a mother, the ability to create and bring life into this world, to raise children, the God-given intuition that we have, all of that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. And we cannot let this present darkness corrupt all that is wonderful, and making men the enemy, turning saying that to be a man is toxic. This is a week where we are going in to celebrate D-Day. Think of all of the men that sacrificed their lives for our country, for the world, for freedom, fighting against a true evil in this world. That type of masculinity is not toxic. That's the stuff the heroes are made of. And I really enjoyed, my family and I went to go see a new movie, Pressure, with Brandon Fraser. And if you remember, he was a big deal back when I was a teenager. He was in movies like School Ties, The Mummy, and he plays General Eisenhower in this movie. And I didn't see any previews before going to the film. I don't like to see a lot of previews because the previews tend to like give the whole thing away. And I didn't realize that this was going to mainly be about the weather, which I guess I should have gotten a hint with Pressure. But it was amazing. It was a wonderful movie. We took our daughters, and it's a movie where you didn't check your watch, you didn't look for the time, you didn't want to leave, you didn't want to miss a minute. I thought it was so well done, and it was a reminder of the sacrifice and the cost for our freedom and our liberty. I mean, it wasn't like Saving Private Ryan, which was amazing. Those opening scenes, like or Band of Brothers, the series on HBO. They touched on, when the army and all this coalition of all the allies first stormed the beaches of Normandy. It's a reminder of what they literally just ran right into open fire, especially at Omaha Beach. So, I'm thinking about D-Day a lot because on Wednesday, I head off to San Diego, California. Moms for Liberty is doing a big event on the USS Midway that on D-Day on Saturday, June 6th, a celebration of the 250th birthday of America and the 5-year anniversary of Moms for Liberty. So I'm thinking a lot about D-Day and the sacrifice. I have in my family generations of men and women. My grandmother served in the Coast Guard during World War II, but generations of men who served even as early as the late 1800s. But we have a legacy of members of the Marine Corps. They have served, my great-great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my brothers. And I currently have a son-in-law that serves in the Air Force. I am a former Navy wife, so I have so much respect for all those who have served, who continue to serve. And just thinking about that a lot, I'm very excited. I've never been aboard the USS Midway, so it's going to be a very cool and very thoughtful experience. And Glenn Beck, who is, he's big force behind all of this, and he's going to be our featured speaker. He's bringing in a bunch of historical artifacts that I'm excited to see, and I'm excited to learn. And I'm bringing one of my daughters with, and so it's really cool. If you are in the San Diego area over on Saturday, please go to momsforliberty.org/midway and check it out. Get a ticket. We also have on Friday, June 5th, we have a parental rights symposium, and that's going to feature a whole bunch of speakers, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, but including James Lindsay, our friend James Lindsay. And I will be there for that as well. I'd love to meet my California brothers and sisters who are fighting this good fight. And I think a lot of people write off California, but it has a huge population, and there's a huge population of conservatives, and they are there. It's a beautiful state. They love their state, and they're fighting pretty hard. My husband just showed me another Spencer Pratt video, and they're brilliant. They're funny. And every time I see one, I'm like, if everyone could see these ads, I think it might be like the kryptonite that could wake them up. They're so good. They're just, and it's not just about the ad, it's about the truth that's getting conveyed in 2 minutes or less. So maybe I'll find one of those and put them up. But so that's what's been going on with me, and a lot to prepare for as we go to California. So some really good news right here. The Trump administration has announced they're launching an investigation in North Carolina. And so a lot of my friends in North Carolina and the chapters there, they are very excited. They have been working really hard in coordination with lots of other groups, lots of other conservatives, with community members, with the girls, with their parents, to expose what's happening in North Carolina, which is in this school district, as is happening all over this country, in red areas and blue areas alike. They allowing biological males to use the girls' bathrooms, shower rooms, locker rooms, and participate in their all-female sports. In this case, it is competitive cheer, where biological males are allowed to compete in competitive cheer. And listen, there's lots of times males do compete in competitive cheer as males, not pretending to be females. So it cheer is a sport where you do see they have males competing. That's fine. Everyone's okay with that. It's when they're pretending to be females and using the locker rooms and shower rooms of the girls, and then making them feel uncomfortable, watching them change, leering at them as they change. This is what we would call sexual harassment. Okay. This is a situation for which Title IX was created to protect the girls from harassment. And I'm going to, I've got the speech here. Let me pull it up. Let's listen to this young lady talk about what the girls are experiencing in this school district.
Received from our principal after expressing her concerns reads as follows. The court has decided that there isn't anything we can do, and if he wants to be there, he can. And if it was her who was uncomfortable, then she can go somewhere else. Many of my peers and I feel uncomfortable using facilities designed for women and women alone, as he has different reproductive parts than we do. Another peer of mine who is on a sports team stated that during scheduled spring workouts for her sport, she was in the locker room changing when she noticed him watching her and the other girls dress and undress. She stated that this made her feel extremely uncomfortable and that she did not feel safe or respected in that environment. She then reported the situation to her coach and the athletic director, who then directed her to speak about this issue with the principal. When she then brought the concern about her safety and uncomfortability to him, he stated that the matter was too political to address and that any action might be interpreted the wrong way. Our school is supposed to make every student safe, but we get ostracized when we discuss this with adults who are supposed to ensure the safety and comfortability at school. Personally, I try to avoid the restrooms at all costs, but I do use these facilities at times when I really have to. I, as well as others, do not feel comfortable when an individual of the opposite gender is allowed and authorized to use our facilities. Tonight, I am asking the school board what they plan to ensure the comfortability and privacy of my fellow students and I during the bathroom and locker room changes.
Can you imagine that this young girl, a junior in high school, this is the Carabas County School District in North Carolina, having to beg the adults to please remove males from the female locker rooms and shower rooms because they are staring at them, ogling them, leering at them, sexualizing them, harassing them. Please, could you remove these males? And being told by a principal, oh no, that's political. Oh no, that's too risky. They are more afraid of this pretend girl, a boy, and the family suing them for removing them from a girl's locker room than they are of the parents, the girls in the community that are simply saying, this is harassment. They are more afraid of the pretend girls, these boys, than they are of the actual girls and their parents who are being sexually harassed. This is the upside down. This all I can say is that when I was in high school, had this situation happened and my father found out, I wouldn't want to be around to see what would happen. I think that a lot of dads need to get really uncomfortable with these situations and let their voice be heard. And they need to line up and say, no, not my daughter. This is not happening to my little girl. So you need to figure this out. I am so proud of these girls. I am so proud of the parents that have stood with them. But it's going to take continued, sustained awareness, action, fighting back, getting your voice out, never surrendering ever on this issue before it changes. I am so thankful for the Trump administration acting swiftly on this. I know that speech was from, I believe, September or October of 2025. But the social media campaign to elevate this situation is more recent. And this is the way that things get done. And this is why social media and this platform, all the platforms, but particularly, I believe, X, are so important. But all social media platforms that have talked about her speech, they had press conferences. There are organizations that put together very well done videos and ads. And these girls were the center of this. These girls, I cannot stress enough how brave it is for these young girls to put their name out there, put their face out there, and say, no more, no more. I am fighting back. And when they do that, that is when we can get the attention of the Trump administration, the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education. This is when lawsuits start to happen because there needs to be a victim. When you're bringing a suit, you have to have a plaintiff. Harm has to be shown. And in the past, there's always been a lot of complaints, a lot of news stories. It's on Fox News. We're always grateful for that coverage. It's on Newsmax. It's on Real America's Voice, The Charlie Kirk Show, smaller shows like mine. The stories were out there, but as was the case in a big story that we broke that went mega viral, I was actually a guest this time last year, it was about April of 2025 that I was on the Charlie Kirk Show with Charlie Kirk. And we were discussing a situation exactly like this that was happening in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he called it the worst case he had ever heard of as far as a Title IX violation, where this 16-year-old, over 200-pound boy was leering and pleasuring himself watching girls change in the high school female bathroom. And when girls confronted him, he got violent, allegedly violent. It was well reported by the Kenosha Eye, an investigative reporter there. And I was able to, with the help of Libs of TikTok and a lot of my friends that follow me, I have a lot of really great big accounts that amplify these stories because they care so much about these issues. And I'm always grateful to all of them. We were able to draw attention to this situation, but there weren't any girls or parents that were willing to come forward and say, okay, I'm that girl. I was the one that was harmed. that can make it a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible. It's more difficult to get the OCR complaints, get those going, get the lawsuits going, get the attention that is necessary in order to have the type of case that could win. They could win because there has to be a victim, there has to be harm, there has to be girls that say, I was harmed, I was assaulted, I was harassed, I've been told if you don't like it, you can leave, and I have nowhere to go to the bathroom because these school districts have functionally eliminated girls' bathrooms. I mean, do you understand this? There are no girls' bathrooms anymore. There are no girls' locker rooms anymore. In school districts where they allow the students to decide which bathroom or locker room or shower room that they are going to use based on how they identify, that means there is no longer a girls' space. Privacy is gone for girls. The girls' bathrooms are gone. They have been erased. They have been disappeared. Because at any moment, some boy who feels like a girl can just walk right in, and there is, as you heard her say, nothing we can do about it. I can't tell you how many times I have heard, our hands are tied. It's the law. They just simply ignore. They ignore President Trump's executive orders. They ignore the guidance from the Department of Education. They ignore the warnings from OCR, the head of the OCR, Harmeet Dillon. They ignore the Office of Civil Rights. They ignore everything. They ignore it all, and they will cling to, well, we've in California, well, according to our statutes, in the case of California, just recently, in the Mirabelli v. Bonta decision, the Supreme Court said, well, the California statutes that say that school districts must keep secrets from parents about gender identity, those are illegal. You can't do that. Do you think that suddenly the woke capitulate? Oh, we lost. Darn. No, they keep fighting. The ACLU files another case, another group, some other radical NGO they'll file another case. They keep fighting. And so we will have to keep fighting, and funding will have to be pulled. But all of this takes time. President Trump and the Trump administration they have vowed, they're all day, because it's June 1st. And last year, the Trump administration and the Department of Education, Secretary Linda McMahon, declared that June is going to be the protection of Title IX month. And they're like, forget, the trans pride debacle that we have been seeing over the past 4 years. June is going to be about protecting Title IX. Moms for Liberty, we've talked about June Parental Rights Month because we celebrate the Supreme Court decision, Pierce versus the Society of Sisters, in which the Supreme Court made it very clear that it is parents, not the government. Surprise, Gavin. It's parents, not the government, who direct the care and upbringing of their children, and that definitely includes their education. And that definitely includes taking them to the doctor and managing their medical records. You can't keep separate records for kids. You can't hide these things from parents. That's unconstitutional. It's immoral and it's unconstitutional. And Mahmoud v. Taylor, another big win, where one of the plaintiffs was none other than Moms for Liberty's Rosalind Hanson, who's a leader in Montgomery County, Maryland. She also recently made the headlines as she testified before her school board about the involvement of SPLC in her school curriculum. That's a whole nother story, but we've talked about that a lot. And Mahmoud again restated that when it comes to parents and a family's deeply held religious beliefs, schools must respect them, and parents have the ability and the right to opt their kids out of controversial content, controversial subjects and curriculum. And in order to opt their kids out, they need to know what's going on. They need to be aware of what's happening in schools. I would bet I would bet that in Carabas County School District, a lot of parents had no idea that there was a policy or a non-policy. So sometimes it's a non-policy. They didn't put it in writing. It's just what they do in practice. That happened in New Richmond, and you'll hear about that a little bit as we talk to Ella, and I've done a bunch of podcasts on that. But they'll have a non-policy where we don't have a policy that says that any boy who feels like a girl today can just walk into the girls' bathroom. But that's essentially what we have, because we're so great. We're so inclusive. We're so open-minded. Our brains are falling out. Celebrate it. Yay. Look at us. It's absolutely insane. And the only reason why this nonsense persists is because not enough people know it's happening. And when they hear that it's happening, they think, but it's not happening here. The polls show it, but all I have to do is use my God-given common sense to know that no sane adult who is not addled with Transhausen by proxy is going to say, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, let the 17-year-old boy into the girls' bathroom with all the 14 to 18-year-old girls while they're undressing. That's a wow. How brave, how stunning. Boy, are we just pat myself on the back for that real smart take. I mean, come on. That's called recipe for disaster. In the past, you would think a lot of administrators might think that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But in our age of extremely weak, wimpy, indoctrinated, and just spineless, cowardly administrators that run our school districts, unfortunately, they have the spine of a spaghetti noodle when it comes to defending girls' biological reality, sanity, and what's right. And they're more afraid of the blue-haired activists that are going to come and be mean to them and saying really mean things on the internet. So what changes that? Well, I know what changes that. It has happened in North Carolina. It happened in Wisconsin. What changes that is that there is another force. Use your powers, Luke. Using the force for good. A rebellion. A group of leaders, parents, community members, moms, and dads, and the girls all fighting back and doing so in a way that works. And that means documenting everything. Okay, you find out that there's a boy using your daughter's bathroom. Okay. Send out emails, confirm, just like they did. You heard what she said. In fact, I want to play it again. First, parents, send off an email. I want to confirm, because I can't even believe I'm hearing this. But my daughter said that there's some dudes in her bathroom. If you go to meet in person, Bring your phone, record everything. And then when you're done, send a follow-up email stating this is what happened. Get that in writing. Their response, now you've got the written response. That confirms it. Great. I want to see your policy. We don't have a policy. It's a non-policy. Well, okay, start going to school board meetings, talk to your school board members, talk to your superintendent, talk to your state representatives, talk to your governor, talk to your congressman, talk to your senator, and then do everything you can to get the attention of the Trump administration who wants to help you. But there's processes that must be in place, and investigations like this, these OCR investigations, are very detailed and they're lengthy. So this again, celebrate, huge win. Don't stop there. In New Richmond, parents filed a separate private legal action with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. So not only, and then after all of that, big thing, find candidates to challenge that current school board and support them, get them ready to campaign, and get them elected and replace these terrible school board members that allowed this crap to continue. The most successful candidate in the New Richmond School District, where this exact situation happened, ran on this issue. Also, listen, there's a lot of things going on in the school, but this issue, and said, I am going to take care of this. I will not allow boys in the girls' bathroom. I am not going to allow schools to be weaponized and politicized for this radical trans agenda. We're done being woke. We're going to go back to the basics. We're going to increase our proficiency scores. Schools are going to do their job. They're not going to do the job of parents. They're not going to become, religious indoctrination camps where we can brainwash your kids to hate you and hate their church and hate everything about America. We're done with this crap. If you want to indoctrinate kids, go have your own. Stop indoctrinate ours. And she won. She beat out the school board president. She won because it was just plain common sense. Parents don't want to send their kids to school so they can be indoctrinated. They send them to school so that they can be educated. And left, right, center, non-political, whatever, everyone, that's what everyone wants. And there are families that want their children to be educated and to be trained up in their religious traditions. So they choose private schools. There's a lot of different private schools. In those schools, yes, religion's part of the curriculum. Parents know that when they send their kids up. In public schools, if you haven't gotten the memo yet, they are also religious. You just don't know it. Their religion is woke. And they are devoted to their cause. The priests and priestess line up the halls of many schools in America. They pretend that this is just this is not, we're not doing anything wrong. What is critical race theory? What is this gender ideology you talk about? We don't know what any of that is. And then you leave the room and all the rainbow flags come out and they throw a, non-binary pizza party and they love bomb your kids. If there's a girl that's like, oh, I'm really close to my dad and we work on cars. Well, you must be a boy then. Or a boy, I like to bake and I think pink is a nice color. Well, you must secretly be a girl. Didn't you know? And here's some books that I could bring out the books that they're little indoctrination materials. So we reject June as Pride Month, but most of public education does not yet. It's better. It's a lot better. I mean, come on, think back to the dark days, okay? It was dark. I was doing a lot of reporting back then. It's it's better, but woke is not dead yet. I would love for that to be the case. I would love it. I would be dancing on its grave. I wish it was dead. It is not. It is not by a long shot. This was a project that took generations, and it is a project that will take generations to unravel. In my lifetime, like, I am fighting for a cause that I know that I may not live to see the full benefit. I'm building a land that I may not fully see, but that's okay, because that's what adults do. The ROI isn't instant. Conservatives need to get over that whole, like, I want to see instant proof that the long march through the institutions to get here it was a long march. We can't make it a sprint back, because that would be sloppy, messy, and mean that they will quickly rise back to power because we didn't do things right. It's just not possible. Education has been wholly taken over by radical Marxists for the most part. If you're lucky, they're just a moderate progressive. That's a conservative. That's just the way it is. I mean, if you're listening to this, you know that. And if you're not, well, now I just let you know, and that's the truth. So what can we do? Call to action. You have to be talking to your kids all the time and supporting them, encouraging them, getting them comfortable with standing out, getting them comfortable for speaking up. I would say this. This is something. Even, I'm going to quote Jordan Peterson, who's way smarter than me. Hopefully he's better soon. Early on, he would advise kids, I know that your teacher, your high school teacher, your college professor is going to ask you to write things that you don't believe are true. And in order to succeed, then maybe you feel like you have to write things that aren't true because you just want to get a good grade and move on. And he said there was a time where he would advise, okay, you can do that. You can walk the line. You can bifurcate yourself, when you're in school, like it's okay. These are things that you're doing for your career to succeed. So it's okay. But he said what he realized over time, and that's why he loved the Gulag Archipelago and Solzhenitsyn, and famous thing that was said is live not by lies. Because when you lie, it's like J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. Committing a murder rips a piece of your soul out. And that's how they created the Horcruxes. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. Lying at that level and advising your kids to lie is to advise your kids to tear a little bit of their soul out. Just a little, it's okay. Then another piece. I think that even if there's a cost, we have to tell our kids they have to stand for truth. Nothing is worth sacrificing your honor, your word, the truth, your values, everything you hold dear. Is it worth it? And I say no. So, but if you're going to say something like that to children, especially to your children, then you had sure as heck better be fighting for them, with them, next to them, and being a shining example of resilience, real resilience, not that fake woke resilience, but real resilience, real courage, real character. And the more kids like this girl in North Carolina, like you'll see Ella Frei, like Riley Gaines, like Alexa Anderson, like Maddie, who I've interviewed before, like Sophia Carpenter. There's so many young, brave girls. I'm going to be talking to, in the coming weeks, because it is June and we are going to be protecting Title IX. My mission is to I want to talk to every girl that I can about this issue. So DM Moms for Liberty on X, or me, Scarlett Johnson, at Scarlett4Kids. Please, if this is something that's happening in your school district and you're standing up, I want to know. I will platform you. If you're an athlete, I want to know. I want to talk about it. I want to elevate these conversations, these kids, these families. We have to form this army of truth and just fight. This is the most unpopular issue in politics. So my background is political science, government. I've worked campaigns. I was in law school. I dropped out when I had my first son, but went to law school, didn't finish, but have legal background. I work with a lot of constitutional lawyers now. And this is our issue. This is our time. We have to fight. We have to fight this. It is so unpopular. It's that when campaigns do polling, this issue, it doesn't matter. Ideology doesn't matter. Although more Republicans in polling will say that they agree that boys shouldn't be in girls' sports, that they shouldn't be in bathrooms, that kids should not be medicalized and affirmed as far as gender affirming care. But still, a majority of Democrats or progressives also agree with those statements. This is so unpopular. And so this is an issue we absolutely can and should win. It just resonates. It's so obvious. It's like Spencer Pratt, like whoever, Spencer, if you're listening, when you're done with this campaign, could you start doing some videos about the boys and girls sports? Because it's time to mock this. It's time to expose the fraud, the absolute fraud that this has become. It is a mockery. It is just a violation. And so this is something that we should not be backing down on. We should be doubling down on. We should be running this issue home. It defines the culture wars, because if people don't understand, if they can't say men can't get pregnant, they should not be governor. They should not be running the local dog catching agency. They shouldn't be running anything. If they can't say that men don't get periods, you're disqualified. If you cannot agree with this statement, a boy cannot ever become a biological female, and XX and can never turn into XY chromosomes, and XY chromosomes can never magically turn into XX chromosomes. And if you think that there are people who don't say that chromosomes can change. You are wrong. I have sat through countless hours of testimony where in debate, like we've been fighting in Wisconsin for years, fighting for fairness in women and girls sports laws. Whenever we do every year, the radical activists show up and wearing their t-shirts, all organized by the billions of dollars that the money that they get from outside interest groups, many outside of the country. And they'll say, like one guy said, I think my chromosomes have changed. I haven't checked them recently, but pretty sure that my chromosomes have now changed and I'm a biological female. This was a kid that was going to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Okay, so and everyone's nodding like, yeah. It's crazy. The stuff that I've heard is crazy. So early on, they tried to make, this argument that, well, we're talking about gender, not biological sex. We're talking about gender, the expression. And there's so many different expressions. They're endless and limitless. You can express yourself in all these ways. They have for the last couple of years, that argument's gone to the wayside. No, they'll say, yeah, they will not say that a man who believes that he is a woman, they will not say, oh no, that's a biological man. They will not say A.B. Hernandez is a boy, is a biological boy. They won't say it. So that's the question. That's the little question. You're in a debate. So, hey, okay, is A.B. Hernandez a boy? Well, I'm not going to answer. Can A.B. Hernandez get pregnant? I'm not going to answer that question. Does A.B. Hernandez menstruate? Oh, no, I can't answer that question. Oh, yeah. They can't say that the truth. They will force you to say something wrong is something right. They want to compel your speech. You're going to hear, as I talk to Beth Bourne, she's going to talk about this. How Harmeet Dillon was in California, was a lawyer representing her and the law firm because they went after Beth Bourne because she simply used the biological name of a boy that was competing against girls because she refused to use the she, her, they, them, z, zer, rock, self pronouns, whatever de jour name of the day that they want to be called. She refused to use those. And so she had to fight many free speech lawsuits just because she misgendered, and that was considered harassment. They will classify a lot of the in school districts and in policy, you will find the language that allows for gender identity to creep into an institution. It comes through harassment policies. It's harassment. It's that's how they get you. My monologues always tend to be kind of long. Okay, so a few things before we start this interview. So we talked about North Carolina. We saw the Trump administration, and I do want to talk a little. I just saw something from Icons. I love Icons. They're talking about A.B. Hernandez. That's a lot. And I won't get ahead of this, the very good, the things that we're going to talk about. But so the OCR has now filed, there is a lawsuit in North Carolina, which is amazing. So now this school district, the Carrabba School District, they are under investigation for violations of Title IX, for disregarding the complaints of the girls and the parents about policies that put them in danger and violate federal law and allow for biological males to invade the private spaces of the girls, causing them to be harassed. So bravo, North Carolina, bravo to all who were behind this effort. This is how you get it done. Everyone else take note. This is just how you're going to do it. I've had conversations with Southeastern Legal Foundation, Kim Herman, with my friends in the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, and Corey Brewer, Dan Lennington, Lauren Gruel, and it's the same thing. Like there needs to be families, girls, parents that will stand up and say, this is happening. It's happening in my school, and here's the proof. And they're going to school board meetings. When we can do that, we can get these OCR complaints going. The Trump administration can get involved. Lawsuits and policy changes. Then, of course, what we do best, Moms for Liberty, getting involved locally, school board races. So, but first, people have to be aware of the problem. And if there's one thing that I take great pride in doing, it is exposing. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. And myself and so many of us that are, on the front lines. I have sort of this national platform and doing a lot of different things. So I'm so grateful to all the moms and dads who are locally just doing that work. Okay, they are the infantry, they are the U.S. Marines of this, and they do that grunt work, and they do it as joyful warriors because they know that it's so important what they're doing. Exposing the worksheets, the curriculum, talking to parents and families, giving them the resources they need, the help they need, connecting them with lawyers, making them feel comfortable, trying to give them support during the down times and celebrate them when things go well. So this is the grassroots activism that groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center have worked so hard to crush because they know that this is how we win. Better to divide us, better to have us talking about foolish things that don't matter, better to, look at the kind of the flashy things and the topics that just, they'd rather have you do that than to focus on what is really happening. And the more that kids expose what their schools are really like. I mean, Ella put out a post this week when we were talking about woke schools, and I was talking with Kelly Shankowski from California about how radical some of the curriculum is, and she reposted, like, parents have no idea how bad it is in the classrooms. Like, they have no idea the things that these teachers tell us. And a lot of times we just blow it off, we don't, but they are bombarded. And doesn't it stink as a parent? Really sucks sometimes that the constant deprogramming that we have to do. It's so frustrating, and it shouldn't be that way. And the vast majority of teachers, I think, are not engaged in this. It's a few. I have a lot of great teachers in my life. My kids have great teachers, and what's the best thing about them is I don't know their politics. My kids don't know their politics. I don't care. They're trying to do their job, and that is great. That's what I want. I don't need them to wear a MAGA hat in the classroom and be like, oh, just do your job. Call balls and strikes, play it down the middle. If you're in high school, of course, you have to talk about government and hot topics. You're teaching kids how to think critically and debate. Yeah, just be fair. Be fair. Don't, put your thumb on the scale, and don't try to parent other people's kids. And if kids ask very controversial questions, just say, go ask your parents. It's really easy. That's a big issue. Why don't you just go talk to your parents about that one? I'm not the person for that. It's very easy. Instead, they set up situations so that kids can ask questions, and they get to, oh, good, I get to bring out my gender inclusion toolkit handed to me by the Human Rights Campaign. Yay! I finally get to bring out, the Pride Parade book that I've been dying to show the kids, and then we can have a worksheet about gender inclusivity, and we can talk about the 37 different genders. And over this month, I'm going to bring the books back out so we can start like having Scarlett's story time, but it's really just for adults. So I can only do it at night, because these bright, colorful books, I never bring them out around little kids, because they're like, oh, look at that color. It's like, nope, you can't see that. No, you don't want to see that. That's pure indoctrination there. But we could dive in, because I promise you the Human Rights Campaign and Welcoming Schools and Planned Parenthood, Advocates for Youth, Gender Spectrum, and all the groups, this used to be their Christmas. June was like their month-long Christmas. And when they were getting funding from the Biden administration hand over fist, it was just a party every day for them. But now, thankfully, we've got President Trump, and funds have dried out, although a lot of funding, as we've discovered, especially mental health funding that was awarded in 2023, gets dispersed sometimes through 2028. So still got to do that digging, still got to do that working, still have to do the exposing. There's a lot less money, a whole lot less, and they're underground just a little bit more, but not that much. And we'll talk more about that. But okay, let's do a few things before. So here, I want to bring up a few clips. Here I am. This was January, and in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, as two very important cases had oral arguments were being heard. And in this month of June, we are going to finally get some decisions from SCOTUS, long-awaited decisions that are going to be so important about this issue. So here, let's watch this.
Scarlett Johnson with Moms for Liberty, and I am live in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Today, there is a rally to protect women and girls sports, and we're here because the Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments on two very important cases that will decide the future of women and girls sports, and whether or not sex-separated sports in K through 12 schools and colleges and universities is constitutional, which we of course think it is. As Riley Gaines has said, the question that's being asked of the Supreme Court is really just basic. We are asking for bare minimum rights for women and girls, just the right to have safety and protection in our sports. So we think that we know that Title IX was predicated on a binary, that the definition of sex is male and female, and that it's inherently unfair to ask girls to compete against biological males. And that isn't bigotry, and that isn't anti-science. That is actually pro-science. That is actually reality, and we are fighting to affirm biological reality in a world gone mad. This is an 80-20 issue. We are on the side of Team Sanity, Team Reality, and I feel confident that we're going to win this.
And I still feel confident that we're going to win this. Now, here is a good clip from discussion with Alexa Anderson.
Yeah, because so much of this, it's not about the individual athletes. It's not about the transgender people in the world. It's about the adults in charge who have failed to protect us girls in our sports. That is who we are trying to get the attention of and who we are trying to say we are not okay with what they're doing. At the end of the day, all of us up on that podium were just kids. We're all just learning who we are, trying to go through life, and we were failed by the adults in charge who didn't protect us. So that's who I have a problem with.
Love that. Just kids. And we were failed by the adults in charge who didn't protect us. So now we have to do our job, adults. That was so well said.
Have to affirm anyone's feelings. I have the right to not do that. And so how one wants to live their life, that's up to them. They just can't tell me that I have to affirm it, that I have to participate, and that I have to celebrate it. Now, that is when my First Amendment rights get infringed. And that's when my values have to take a second place to someone else's. And then that's not fair. So
yes, I definitely agree. That's kind of what happened to us when we expressed our concerns, expressed our frustrations with this issue. Our First Amendment rights were violated. We were not really allowed to speak on this.
Yes, and that's about compelled speech. Because, as I said before, it's not just inclusion. Yes, we're going to include and we're going to be kind. It's not just kindness. It's not just tolerance. Okay, yes, fine. You do you, I'll do me. No, it's celebrate me now. Celebrate. And then it's participate. You have to participate. And you have to tell everyone that what I think is real. I think I'm a girl. You have to not just tolerate that, accept that. You have to celebrate it and participate in the humiliation rituals, which I will force you to do. Oh, and here's one last little dig. Your daughter has to participate in it as well. And I'm going to take her spot. I'm going to take her privacy. I'm going to steal her innocence. I'm going to steal everything from her and leave nothing. And you're going to smile and say more. That's what you get to do. You have to have braces on your brains if you think that that's an okay deal to make. I just have no words if you think that this is something that this will blow over. These people play for keeps. I mean, they actually want to mutilate perfectly healthy genitals. They want to chemically castrate kids. So I don't think that they're just going to walk away. And one day you'll get normalcy back by magic, because people just come to their senses. No, you have to fight. You're going to have to fight for every inch. This is we don't call it a culture skirmish. It's a culture war. It's not one we started. We don't want to fight this. We just wanted to be left alone. And we wanted our kids to be left alone. We just wanted to live our lives. But the woke don't play that. Because in their world, if you're not with them, you are against them. It is a radical, revolutionary, Marxist worldview, and you need to wake up and smell the Marxism. You may not believe in that. You may not believe, I don't believe it's wrong, but they do. So you need to wake up. Let's see. Let's listen to Jennifer.
You may get called names. People might say mean things. At the end of the day, if you're speaking truth, you should take comfort in that. You should find strength in that. Believe me, people will join you. You can be a leader and you can do it. Don't force your kids to do it. I feel really strongly about that. Work to give them the confidence that they can do it. And that's one of the things we try to do at XXXY Athletics. We have a big team of athletes that we work with. I spent about an hour the other night on the phone with a bunch of them, connecting them. Oftentimes they're the only one in their school or on their team that is speaking up to protect women's sports. But now they have each other, and I feel really proud of that. You'll find people in your community that stand with you. We have to not think of this as like there's this one moment in time or this one major event. This is going to be an ongoing fight. Steel yourself, screw up your courage, get out there and do it. Have one-on-one conversations, bring people over to your side. There's a lot of people out there that probably agree with you that are too scared. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, your sisters, your relatives. Go speak at the school board meeting. You're going to inspire somebody else to do it. Don't for one second think that when you do that, it's over. You're going to have to keep fighting. It's taken 20 years for us to get to this place where men who say they're women get to be treated as women in the eyes of the law. It's going to take us time to unwind it. One executive order is not going to do it. One Supreme Court case, frankly, isn't going to do it. You can make the difference on the ground in your community. One-on-one conversations make all the difference. Grow the community. Show up with strength at those school board meetings. If you're at the soccer field and your daughter has to face off against a boy, don't be quiet. Say something. Talk to the coach. It's a girls' league. She should be playing only against girls. Every day, it's going to be a fight. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Get ready. Steel yourself and keep going. Started this brand to help give people courage and to help people find their community and to give them a brand and an opportunity that aligns with their values. You might be scared if you take that step of wearing this t-shirt or putting on the hat and forcing yourself to go outside. I like to do this for myself all the time when I'm scared. I create these forcing mechanisms that I can't turn back. Once you're outside and you're wearing the shirt, somebody looks at you and either gives you a thumbs up or maybe scowls at you. You've made your opinion heard. 9 times out of 10, they're going to lean in and they're going to say they agree with you. They're going to say, are we allowed to say that now? You've given them courage. That little simple act of wearing the hat or the t-shirt gives other people courage. It's so important. It's not just a t-shirt. It's an expression of moral courage and material reality. You can be the difference maker in your community if you just wear the t-shirt. I swear it seems so simple, almost mundane. All the other ones are wearing their t-shirts. You wear yours, you're going to find you have community. You're going to give people courage.
Moms who wear the t-shirt give courage to their daughters.
Absolutely. You have to model the behavior as a mom. Of course, your daughter's scared. I'm in awe of the young girls across the country who do speak up, but they have every right to be afraid. It's hard. It's hard enough to be a 14-year-old girl. To say something that's unpopular and that people are going to beat up on you and call you names, of course, it's scary. If we don't model that behavior for our children, that moral courage, that willingness to stand up and do the right but very hard thing, then they're never going to learn it. Starts with the moms out there. It really starts with you.
It does. It starts with the moms. Give your kids the courage. And finally, we'll one little clip. Ella will be on first. We're going to talk to Beth Bourne, but
hey Ella, it's so nice to see you again. We were just on a
wait here. Let's see. I'm going to play. I'll wait because we're going to start with Beth Bourne. So I'll play a few more clips of interviews with Ella. We had a really good one in DC. So I think that's it for now. We can go in and we can bring on Beth Bourne, who is an amazing mom, an amazing fighter. And I have so many more things that I could talk about. Literally, I'm a Puerto Rican woman. I could just sit here and talk all night. We could just like talk. I should look really quick. Let's look at some of the comments. Oh, there's some bad ones. Let's see. There's, oh my gosh, it's just so silly when there's some people that just, they actually waste their time to write the dumbest comments, and it's really just why. I'm trying to see, there's let's see, I don't see anything, just a couple. There's a couple good ones, and mostly it's just the Moms for Liberty loonies. we drive them crazy. Okay. When they see articulate, well put together women talk about femininity in a way that's positive, that talk about parenthood, talk about the roles that I'm a mom of 5. I loved being a stay-at-home mom. I love working now. For everything there is a season, but I have a wonderful husband and I've raised a strong son who is a protector. And they don't like to hear anything that's good, positive about men. The only men they like are men that are emasculated and wimpy and spaghettis for spines, that will go around saying that oh yes, isn't Abby Hernandez such a beautiful woman, so stunning and so brave? So I couldn't tell the difference ever. Looks just like a girl. That's how they like their men weak. And we like our men strong. And the kind of strength that fights for their daughters and will never let this garbage happen and will do everything they can to protect their girls. That's the kind of men that we like. And there are many of them in this country and in this world, and we need to support and elevate them as well. And talking a lot about girls, but I'm telling you, many of the situations where there's student walkouts and there's protests, there are so many teenage boys, middle school boys, dads and grandpas that are right there, right beside their daughters, their granddaughters. They are protecting their daughters. And this is a fight. Some people say, well, where are the dads? Where are the dads? We need them. We need their presence. And they are often right there in those school board meetings. But is to do what I do. I have an amazing husband that helps the kids at home and protects them and shields them from all of this hate. And so I am very grateful for him and for his strength. And frankly, in some of these situations, if he were there, it would, I think it'd almost be too much for him to handle, that he couldn't keep his cool, because these people are literally crazy. But shout out to all the guys who've been talking about girls a lot. And I love Jennifer Say. She's so eloquent, and where I can be a little abrasive, but she's just I love the way that she says things, and she's right. We can't make our girls do anything, and we shouldn't. We just have to inspire them, support them, cheerlead their efforts, and just the one thing that we have to do is just tell them that they can't lie. And that they cannot lie, that it behooves no one to lie, and reward them for the strength and courage it takes to stand for truth in a time such as this. So let's start, and let's bring on. This is a conversation that I had with Beth at about noon Central Time today, and I'm really glad to re-air it. It was very, very good, and I think that you all will enjoy it. So let's go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unleash with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And we have a special guest today, Beth Bourne. And I'm really excited to talk to her because she has been on the front lines of the war on women in California, women and girls. And I really want to hear her perspective, her firsthand perspective. But before I bring her on, I'm going to play this video. And most of the footage that you see in this video has been captured by Beth Bourne, this mom who has made it a crusade to defend women and girls and their privacy and their sports, and to just stand in the gap for so many families fighting radical gender ideology. As she lives in California, she's in the belly of the beast, so she can tell us so much about where this all started, where it is right now, and where it's going if we don't continue to fight back. So let's just get this video going so that we can talk to Beth as soon as possible.
Not just won all 3 events he competed in, he completely dominated. And the point is, nobody's happy. I guess I'm sticking on the sports theme as we go to my second and final topic. And this is about a young man who likes to call himself a girl, named A.B. Hernandez, out in the great state of California. And he has been in the news a lot because he happens to be a pretty good athlete when he competes against girls. I'd love to see how he would do competing against boys, because he is a biological man. The interesting thing is that, of course, he's in Gavin Newsom's California, and Gavin continues to not take a stand on protecting women and women's sports. But he shared the top step, the first place spot there on the podium at a track meet recently, because he not just won all 3 events he competed in, he completely dominated, which, big shock, because he's in the long jump, triple jump, high jump, won the long jump over the second place competitor by over a foot. That's usually what happens with men, because men are faster, stronger, can jump higher, further, etc. The controversy, that's bad enough that we're continuing this, despite all the efforts of the Trump administration, federally, and trying to influence states as well. And the NCAA, but of course this is high school. But the fact that his mother then went on a rant on social media about the fact that her son was forced to share a podium with a female athlete. She's mad because she's saying these people just can't look me in the eye and can't allow my daughter to be celebrated because she won the competition. California is being weak in my perspective and taking a middle ground here and saying, well, you know what, we're just going to put a girl and A.B. Hernandez on the podium so everybody's happy. And the point is, nobody's happy. A.B.'s mom is now complaining. Of course, the girls who are still standing there, which a lot of people crush the young women for competing in the first place. I don't, because the adults in the room are choosing to not be adults and protect. And these girls have worked their whole lives. I understand why they keep competing. But the mom of A.B. is complaining. And of course, parents of these young girls are complaining as well. I'm disgusted at the mother. I'm disgusted that she continues to allow her son to do this. I don't know if I'm the only one in this friends group chat who feels that way, because it's nothing personal against AB. It is just wrong to have biological boys competing against biological girls.
Well, there's just some interesting things about all this, this particular story, in that the mom's behavior has subtle echoes of Munchausen's by proxy, right? This is when you let kids be them separate from you and compete and lose and win, and it's not about you, the parent. In fact, healthy parenting is about letting go several years before the age of these particular kids in question. So isn't that interesting how the mom is so personally affected by all this? That's interesting. The other kind of interesting thing is that it's considered terrible for the transgender child not to transition before puberty. But it is after puberty for the male to female transitions that they get these performance enhancing effects. I don't know. Are we celebrating the fact that this child transitioned after puberty? It's just, there's so many weird wrinkles in these whole things that end up, with us with so many questions. It should have been just left alone. as it was. That's fine. I would like to also know, are there any cases of post-pubertal transitioning male to female who don't outperform all the females
Yes. Oh, no,
this?
who don't outperform, male to female. The Olympics did one, or the IOC did one, but there were a lot of flaws in the methodology. I'm going to try to remember this, but the long story short,
post-pubertal transition who doesn't outperform all the
it
females.
may have been, but the problem with the one study is that they let them know what it was about. So if you're like, oh, we're checking to see if this is fair, and you're a trans female athlete, it's like, oh, I can barely perform. I remember there were tons of flaws. There was one, and I had to cite it and be responsible because I knew it was going to come up in a conversation, but it was deeply flawed exactly for that one reason. And there were other co-founding factors. But I can tell you this much. Pre-puberty, there are numerous studies out of Greece, out of Australia, where you've got 6-year-old boys running faster, jumping higher, doing more push-ups, 9-year-old boys, same thing, greater endurance. Then you've got transgender females, so boys to girls, competing in grip strength against girls to boys. Sorry, this gets really confusing. And the long story short is that even on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, those transgender females outperform transgender males, women on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in almost every category of fitness, in particular strength. They looked at thigh muscle, they looked at grip strength. Like, there are numerous studies on this. It's simply not fair. So you have to take the 3 pillars, which would be inclusion, fairness, and safety, apply which one means the most to you in a descending order, and then take a utilitarian approach. Sure, I care about inclusion, but do I care about it more than safety and fairness? Not really. If everybody's going to get hurt and the trans child can't play, that sucks. But it also sucks for the biological females. So again, I go back to this theme of what's the utilitarian approach? How do we create less suffering? I don't know. This is ridiculous to me personally. The data's there. Why are we fighting about this?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly on this one, that's the key part. The fact that this stuff is still happening at this point is so ridiculous. We can look at every study we want, and we can all pull up all the numbers and everything else. We all know this is wrong. Everyone knows it. It has nothing to do with not, say, potentially respecting an adult who lives a certain way. As I always say, if they'll show me respect, I'll show them respect. But when it comes to kids, and then Sage, you made a really good point that I think is worth reiterating, that there's suddenly this thing where the girls just shouldn't compete then. And it's like, why? Well, no, the failure is on the failure of the adults and the system who put these young girls in the position of having to then, okay, so I won't run track, I won't wrestle, I won't play basketball or whatever it is that I love. I, as the 15-year-old girl, will not do that. I'm going to make the ultimate sacrifice and not play the game that I love because you guys, you adults failed and the institutions failed and everything else. No. So that becomes an incredibly difficult, complex problem, because then you're saying, okay, if I had a 15-year-old daughter and I knew she was about to get into a wrestling ring with a 15-year-old boy, I don't know that I'd be well, I know I wouldn't be thrilled about it, but would I want to be telling her, just don't do what you love? So they have so rotted so many things. And if you can't just leave kids alone to do what they love, particularly with athletics, which nobody cares about gender or anything else. I'm playing a ton of basketball these days. And in one of the games that I play in, there's a girl that plays. It's usually about 18 guys, that rotating crew. And we have this one girl, Alexa, and she's pretty good. Right? She had a couple of threes in my face the other day. She's pretty good. But try to think about it the other way. Imagine if there was a group of girls that every Tuesday night they played, and I just started showing up. And I'm going to be 50 next month. I'm not even making this about skill. But if there was just a girl game and a guy just started showing up, the girls would be pissed, and rightfully so.
So that was an interesting conversation, a good prelude. Let's bring on Beth. Hey, Beth, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. It's great to be here.
That's good. I'm so glad to have you. And that was Dave Rubin. And there's a show he does, Sage Steele's there, Dr. Drew. And they do a YouTube show that I listen to a lot. I like the conversational form. And I thought interesting, they used a lot of the video that you take. So let's just dive in. There's some things I disagreed with the framing. You know, I like to just think these are boys. I don't like to, you know, it is confusing. The trans girls, trans boys, like it just gets boys pretending to be girls. It's just boys, biological boys. In everything else is confusing. And when you try to have these conversations, it can be confusing if you don't just stand for the truth and just use the words. And so that's how I'm going to talk. And so far, we don't get kicked off of X anymore for saying that. There was a time where you did. You did. You got your account was gone if you use that kind of language. But Beth, thanks for joining. And let's give us a background. Who are you? You live in California. You're a mom. Why did you start to become an activist? What propelled you? And what are you doing right now? The important work that you're doing, and why are you doing it?
So I live in Davis, California, and between Sacramento and San Francisco. And I'm one of the parents who this really impacted me personally. My daughter took on a transgender identity along with many of her friends at the start of junior high school. And I was fortunate. She wasn't medicalized, and she outgrew her trans identity. So I started doing a lot of research on how it came into the schools, you know, the surveys, the library books, the curriculum.
What year was that?
So that was 2018. So she's like the first cohort where it really was put into, you know, the health class, the science class, flags in the classroom, and then the GSA clubs, the Gender Sexuality Alliance clubs. They would bring in, you know, girls or boys that are quirky and creative, often very gifted, you know, to have free pizza and do arts and craft projects. And, you know, they would be talking to these teachers and school counselors who had just been sort of indoctrinated themselves by the California Teachers Association. So it was sort of like this whole, I know, brainwashing of the public schools here in California. And, you know, you, as a parent, you weren't notified of this. You didn't realize that there were these huge changes in how, you know, they were bringing in all gender bathrooms and locker rooms. And then these gender support plans that teachers were allowing kids to secretly socially transition at school with new names, you know, using pronouns. Sometimes a teacher would ask on the first day of school, do you have a name you'd like to use in the classroom? And should we, who else should know about it? You know, that kind of thing.
This is really interesting that you say 2018, because this came on my radar 2021. So 2022, James Lindsay is the first person to tell me about gender ideology. I had not even heard of that term before. So I was in Wisconsin, sitting in a small town in Green Bay, Wisconsin, having lunch with James Lindsay, who was coming in to talk about critical race theory. And I asked him, so what's next? What's on the horizon? He said, honestly, critical race theory is kind of old news. They are deep into gender ideology. And when he started to tell me about it, I was like in disbelief. I'm like, oh, that can never happen in Wisconsin. That's crazy. I've never heard of anything like that. And wouldn't you know it was, I literally think 2 months later, I had my first call, a parent that had the evidence and was showing me the curriculum that was being introduced into K through 12 education in a suburban area of Wisconsin, an area that was once pretty conservative. And I was like, oh my goodness. And once you peel back the layers, it was all there. So your daughter, how old was she when you first recognized this?
She was about 13. And I'll just mention, we are in a university town. And so I always let parents know, even if you're in a red state, you know, if you're in a blue city or in a town that has a university, it comes sort of through academia and through medicine, through the libraries, and then through the public schools. So all together, if you're in a place like, Davis, California, kids will be immersed in it, and so will the adults.
That's a really good point,
Yeah.
because we're dealing with this issue in New Richmond, Wisconsin. I think they went 65% for Trump. It's a rural farming community fighting boys in the girls' bathrooms. And the residents were absolutely shocked and appalled that it was happening, but they live on the border of Minnesota, on the border of University of Minnesota, and then River Falls, the University of Wisconsin River Falls. So they are a community that is surrounded by college community, and it gets infected. Like these ideas, a lot of the administrators, they either have spouses that work at the college, or they once worked at the college. That's very connected. And what you said about libraries as well, like big library systems and all of that.
Yeah, so that was 2017, 2018. And so I became really aware of it. And then I started to say, well, look, parents aren't that concerned about it because they don't think it'll happen to their child, right? Because, the gender medicine, we have these doctors that are promoting these hormones and blockers and surgeries, here in Davis, but they don't think it's going to impact their child. So I decided to do a lot of focus on the sports issue. And I found that the sports issue, while I think that the idea that we're sterilizing kids and harming their bodies is just incredible, horrific event that's happening right now. The sports thing affects almost every family, right? Everyone has a daughter or a niece or a granddaughter. Everyone, or most people, have played sports in their lives. And so it's much easier for people to understand how insane this is, right? To say that sports can be played with gender identities and not sex bodies. And then also the impact that has on, the girl athletes. So I started focusing on sports in 2023. And I think our first event was at the public library, where we wanted to talk about a male athlete. Sophia Loray was going to talk about, I think it was, Will Thomas, Leah Thomas. And the librarian shut down our event because he said we were misgendering. So anyway, so it became a free speech issue too. And Alliance Defending Freedom represented us, and Moms for Liberty, and we ended up winning the case. But yet, so that I kind of go back to 2023 when I really started focusing on the sports issue. And I think I've become kind of an expert on the California Interscholastic Federation, how they brought it in and how it's impacted girls across the state.
There's a couple things there. First of all, what needs to be understood, if anyone listening doesn't know this, that when biological boys are allowed to play and compete on all female athletic teams, it is because the school has a policy or the state, the governing body that of every state, there's a governing body that governs all of the high school athletics, the college athletics. They have a policy that allows individuals to participate in that team sport, usually before all this, based on whether they're male or female. The sex meant male, female. But when they allow the definition of sex to be corrupted and to include gender identity, a self-identification, oftentimes it is just the declaration by a student that they identify as a sex that is opposite of their birth. That alone can be enough to allow this male to participate and to compete and practice and use the locker rooms and shower rooms and bathrooms of the girls. And I know that sometimes they'll say, well, they have to show medical records or something like that. It doesn't matter to me either way, because you can't. There is nothing in the world that can transform a boy into a girl, no matter what they do. But even then, they often don't ask for the records. They don't provide proof. And there's no evidence whatsoever that taking estrogen reduces the biological advantage that these boys have over the girls. And they're even showing now that even boys that don't go through puberty, if they block the puberty, they still are born with these inherent biological advantages that makes it unfair. Even if you were to say, like, this is about fairness, I think it's also about truth, which means we can't pretend that boys can be girls no matter what. You should never twist reality in order to accommodate someone's issues with mental health or their beliefs. There's reality and then there's fantasy, and we need to know the difference. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. But this free speech issue is interesting because I think were it not for President Trump being elected in 2024, Elon Musk taking over X, sort of a change in the enforcement of free speech, I think there'd be, I'm not sure you'd be able to do what you're doing right now. When you think back to what was happening in 2023, I'm glad Moms for Liberty and Alliance Defending Freedom could help you in free speech. I also have been sued several times, but this is all such a large issue. This is about protecting girls' sports, but compelled speech is a big part of it, isn't it? How are kids forced and compelled to say things that aren't true, or teachers or parents?
Yeah, I mean, that's when I oftentimes say that the reason why sports are also so dangerous is because when you tell a boy, oh, you can compete in the girls' sports, and that also means you can use the girls' locker room and the girls' bathroom, and we're going to celebrate, your accomplishments. And, they really train these girls to make sure you, that you're kind and you're inclusive and you celebrate the athlete, and all these things. And so it's really, asking children to not be honest with what they're seeing with their eyes. So everyone in that classroom, everyone on the, sports field, everyone in that track stadium has to pretend, in this case, let's say A.B. Hernandez, they have to pretend that he's like this special third sex or some, like there's this other kind of human besides, a male and a female. There's a transgender person. And so you're basically asking every child there to lie about what they're seeing with their eyes and not to be able to talk about it and not be able to ask questions. So, I saw it with my own child when he was maybe he's 5, 6 years old. There was 2 transgender kids. This is 2010 at his elementary school in Davis. And you could see how uncomfortable he was having to pretend that, this girl in his kindergarten class was actually a boy. So it's just really destabilizing. And I think, then it starts to break down what kids feel like they can say to their parents about what's happening in school, second guessing their own feelings when they hear about, Jazz Jennings being a boy who became a girl. Like they can't even express their feelings. And it's breaking kids away from their own reality and then breaking apart the family unit because you can't really talk about it anymore. So it's all so dangerous.
So when your daughter was 13, and that seems to be a very typical age between 11, 13 years old, middle school, GSA clubs, now they're being introduced even younger, but it used to begin sort of in the middle school. What was this a surprise? Was this kind of surprising to you? You knew you were in kind of a liberal or progressive area. What was your reaction at first, and what was the reaction of other parents?
So I remember 7 years earlier when, mom in her kindergarten class announced that one of her sons, she had 3 boys, one was a transgender child. That was 2010. And I remember looking at all these other liberal moms, which I was liberal at the time, and thinking, how does this mother know that her son is a girl? He's 2 years old and he's likes wearing dresses, but they all went along with it. They all said, oh, this is so wonderful. The mom's supportive, that the siblings, the two brothers are supportive. And, now he enjoys wearing these little like pink kind of ballet dresses. And that was my first time where I got this uncomfortable feeling in my stomach because it didn't make sense to me. And I just kind of let it go. I didn't push on it. And I should have, but I think you just want to kind of agree with all your friends. And that's the danger of it, right? If you're in a very liberal area and you're your mother, you're like, oh, okay, well, if that's what we all think. So 5 years later, when my daughter said, or I guess it'd be 6 years later, that she was transgender, I was like shocked, I just disbelief. And then that's when I was lucky that an article had just come out in the Atlantic by Jesse Singal about parents who were pushing back on this in the East Coast and not medicalizing their 16-year-old daughters, and their daughters were growing out of it. So that was just enough for me to be like, wait, there's this article in the Atlantic talking about maybe this isn't true. And I did just enough research that I was able to not so I have an ex-husband, but he was affirming, but we agreed not to medicalize her until she was 18. And I'm just so thankful that I had that gut feeling that this can't be true. And my daughter's really intelligent and gifted, and so she had done all this research on Planned Parenthood and WPATH and all these organizations and citations, but I just had this feeling none of this is based in any real science or medicine. So
and it isn't, and it isn't, and it's coming more and more to bear. But there are a lot of parents that maybe didn't do their research, and then Abigail Schreier talks about this. Moms for Liberty, we've talked about this a great deal. We've had book clubs. We've talked with a lot of the experts, but it became kind of a social contagion among girls, where identifying as transgender was almost exclusively in the DSM-5, something that happened to boys of a certain age, and it was almost exclusively boys, and that the advice was that you just usually by 80-90%, by the time they were 19, 20, they would basically grow out of this, and they'd be same sex attracted. That was pretty much the standard. That's the way these things were handled in the psychiatric community, the medical community. And then this change where suddenly it's a lot of young girls, identifying as males, but it's a very different experience where now what we see, these boys like AB Hernandez, like BPJ, when they now come out and they're as a female, they aren't shy or reclusive or sort of hiding. They are like almost starstruck. They are in the spotlight. They're in the media. They are participating in multiple sports, like AB Hernandez. It isn't just track and field where he is competing with girls, and they seem to be enjoying the attention. And even there's cases in Wisconsin, Maine, in Virginia, a lot of other states where these boys will hang out in the girls' locker room and watch girls undress.
Right.
And nothing's done because they identify the gender identity. So is that something that you've seen as you cover sports, that this is predominantly a male phenomenon, that male identifying as female and then kind of crushing the girls on the athletic field?
So, so in the sports issue, like I'll just say for my daughter's, group, it was, half of her theater group and a third of her choir group all started identifying as trans at the same time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know it is. I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting that half of the girls who are in, this theater group of 20 kids are now identifying as trans or non-binary. And and but they're very bright, quirky kids. But for the boys, they oftentimes come at it either through like gaming or anime, sometimes even porn, or they get groomed online, on these Discord chats where they're gaming and they're, being influenced by an adult. So they come at it different ways they get there. But, for my daughter, she was a fantastic athlete. She had close to the school record in 8th grade for triple jump and shot put. But when I, said, okay, you're going into 9th grade and you want to compete in sports, and I really encouraged her to, even if you're trans, you can compete in the girls' sports. It's okay. You're going to still be accepted. And she's like, no, I want to compete with the boys. So I looked at the, I knew what her distance was for triple jump. It was like 30 feet or something. And when I looked on where she would place in the JV, junior varsity, or the freshman group, it was almost at the very bottom, right? And the same for shot put. It's a heavier shot put for boys, but I was like, you could still be. So she's going from setting the record at her junior high school to being at the very bottom of if she was in the boys division. And so what did she do? She dropped out of sports, right? So the girls, and I see it across Davis, right? These very tomboyish girls, great athletes, come out as trans and they drop out of sports. In the boys situation at Davis High School around the same time, there were 3 boys who were competing in girls' sports. So we actually had one boy who won the state championship for downhill skiing in the girls category. He won the state championship and they actually hid it. So it wasn't printed in the school newspaper. It wasn't printed in our local paper. But, the Daily Mail picked it up. Fox News picked it up. So internationally, nationally, the story was told. But in our town, it stayed very quiet. And I actually didn't know until I spoke to a coach on the golf range. I asked him, I said, are there other boys who are competing in girls' sports? And then I found out there were 2 other boys. One boy had just broken the girls' record in the pole vault. He jumped 10 feet at Davis High School and broke the 9th grade record. And then there was another boy who was told not to compete on the girls' varsity cross country team because they didn't want to give a spot to this, this boy who was calling himself a trans girl. So they had him compete in JV. And if you look at the results from that year, he was winning like every big invitational race at the JV level because, the coach didn't want to put him on varsity, but he's a boy and he's just dominating. But, if I said anything to my liberal friends, they would be like, well, it's only high school sports. It's not that many kids, what about their feelings? And I just realized like people have lost their minds, right? Like we have all these, all of a sudden, all these trans kids coming out and then just completely erasing, the whole idea of Title IX, right? To give fairness and opportunity to girls. So, some of the first research I did actually was going back and looking at when the California Interscholastic Federation adopted these policies. And this is very hard to find, but it was in 2011. It was AB Assembly Bill 266. It says it's a bill that would allow students to participate in the gender in which they identify. And they actually, here in this, it's like a staff report that they, of the proposal, it said that this process would allow individual schools or school districts to access a statewide review panel that would consist of a physician with experience in gender identity and the WPATH, World Professional Association of Transgender Health standards, a psychiatrist at the school, or a licensed mental health care professional, a school administrator, a CIF staff member, and then an advocate familiar with gender identity, and that they would have this panel decide if the students, so this panel would ensure that students not in transition could not attempt to use this issue as an avenue to participate in sports. So when they first brought this idea, it was like, we were going to have this panel of experts who's going to, sit and meet with the athlete, talk to the coaches, the directors, the physicians, and then they would decide. Well, of course, if you go forward a few years later, all of that disappeared, right? it's up to the student to decide if they want to participate in sports. And if you, and this is also interesting. So it's called the Gender Inclusivity Toolkit. It was adopted in 2020 by CIF. It's an exact copy. I don't know, people might be just listening, but it's an exact copy.
I'm going to look that up right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the Washington Interscholastic Association. You can see the trans flag on the top. And it says gender diversity. So this is like, one of those kind of cult trans groups, lobbying groups that works in a community to transition kids. So California copied Washington's, verbatim. And so then the person who actually wrote the toolkit is Aidan Key. And, this person is actually a woman who identifies as a trans man. So it's that you can't make this up. The policy is actually written by a woman pretending to be a man. You can see her. I post sometimes her pictures when she was growing up. She has a twin sister. And anyways, but yeah, so CIF has quietly introduced all these different ways that we allow male participation in girls' sports. Yeah, thank you. That's great. I just made that last week.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to understand. Yeah, thank you. So CIF is divided by 10 sections across, we have a huge state. That section that A.B. Hernandez is in, it's called the Southern section. It's a number 9 on there. That's all of Los Angeles. So there's 850,000 high school kids competing in high school sports. About 400,000 are girls. I think that section is probably 100,000 students, right? So we're talking about huge numbers of kids are being, brainwashed by the sports federation here in our state. And, I started posting stuff on Instagram about A.B. Hernandez, and I hadn't used Instagram much. Once I did that, I started hearing from other parents around the state and other coaches. And that's how I actually heard about this one athlete, Cole Marino, who's competing down in San Diego, where I also competed in track and field for CIF back in the 80s, and then got to compete at Cal Poly as a college track runner. So, and then there's the other boy in the Central Coast in Santa Maria. His name is Antonio Alice Beretta. So yeah, these three athletes actually made it to the section finals. So we don't know how many other athletes are, just competing in the league championships or like at, my high school, because, I submitted a public records request. CIF says they can't track any numbers because the coaches don't have to disclose if there's transgender athletes on their team. So there's no way to track it. We don't know if it's, 20 kids, if it's 200, if it's 2,000, if it's 20,000. And a lot of these boys are actually being transitioned, before puberty. So it's a little harder to tell, right? I mean, there's ways you can tell, but it's scary. It's really.
That's why they advocate for this earlier transition so that they can pass. And but what's so scary about that is that these kids, little kids, are being put on a path where the effects are irreversible. They cannot be unchanged. They are now stuck. And they're making decisions, at 6 years old now, 6, 7, 8 years old, to change their sex, which you cannot do.
Right.
But I mean, to chemicalize and to think that you can just stop puberty and that there'd be no consequences by using drugs that were meant to castrate sex offenders, giving them to kids in a way that's not even approved by the FDA, and saying that this is all, it's just harmless. It's not going to do any harm, but it does. Even the social transitioning without any medication usually puts these kids on the fast track to a medical transition eventually. So yeah, but I'll remember this. I did find also, I want to bring onto stage, remember this, but I also thought interesting what you said, that girls, when they are struggling mentally with their body, and for lots of different reasons, whether it's influence of social media, what's happening in a classroom, abuse. They have some challenges that when they get to high school and they think, well, I'm great at sports, but I'm identifying as a male, so I would have to join the male team. They see that I don't have a chance. So they just drop out of their sport, which is really sad. That's sad that now they're not participating. But boys, they look and they think, I'd win it all. I'll do great. So it makes perfect sense that this is a phenomenon that we see where males who are caught up in this whole, transgender phenomenon, that they'll join the team if they played sports at all, because they'll go from last to first.
Right.
And then they'll be celebrated by the community. Oh, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Until recently celebrated by the community. So that's actually makes a lot of sense to me now. I want to add, so you talked about this, this gender diverse youth sport inclusivity toolkit.
It is. It is the most insane piece of propaganda I've ever read in my life. And it's on every single high school's website in California. I think we have like 8,000 high schools. All you have to do is go onto the high school, go onto their athletics page, and then look up, it'll say like coach resources or parent resources or inclusion. And, this document, I guess is required to be up there, but it starts with these crazy definitions, right? We're going to have this new language where we have cisgender and, transgender and, gender identities. And then it starts there by saying, how does California law protect kids? Well, it doesn't mention that federal law says that girls and women should have protected sports. So, of course, federal law supersedes state law, but it doesn't mention that. Yeah, and it says assigned sex. The person was given that describes the sex a person was given at birth based on their anatomy. That none of that is true. Sex is determined at the moment of conception. I knew my daughter was going to be a girl because I had an amniocentesis done at 20 weeks pregnant. There is no doctor who is assigning the sex. They observe it, but it's based off of, that moment of conception.
Yes, look at this, a win-win situation for everyone. How ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Pure propaganda. And you're right.
And that's a woman. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Aiden Key is a woman. I think her name was Susan growing up. Oh wait, and I think it was Bonnie. I'm thinking of Buck Angels. But yeah, this is a woman, who works in the state of Washington and makes a lot of money with the gender diversity. It's a trans nonprofit or NGO.
Yes, that makes sense. But notice, like you said, they're not mentioning current federal law. They're not mentioning the guidance that has been given by the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the Office of Civil Rights. It's not mentioning the president's executive orders signed. They're still basing on California law, and there are two very big cases that will be decided by the Supreme Court that have a direct bearing on this toolkit. And while I'm hoping, and everyone is telling us, Alliance Defending Freedom is involved in one of these cases, that they're anticipating a good outcome. What do you think the chances are that even if the Supreme Court does say that states can define sex as male, female, and states can exclude males from all female categories? If they say can and not must, what is the state of California going to do?
Yeah, I'm hoping that because our public schools do get federal funding, I think it's like, 8% on average, if they're not willing to do it because it's the right thing to do, right? And 26 states in the US are doing it. They'll do it because Trump's administration will say, well, we don't need to give you this federal funding then, because you're actually, you're violating Title IX. That's what I'm hoping. It's so crazy. These lawsuits take so long. And I just want to point out too that, they call it the CIF Gender Diverse Toolkit because by not calling it a policy, they didn't have to bring it to a public meeting. And I attend a lot of these meetings, right? We have the Brown Act, which requires that they notify the public gets a chance to comment, that we get to watch, the entire meeting as rules are being changed or policies. But they call it a toolkit so they can just kind of do it all, backdoor. Nobody knows what's happening, who's funding it, what the ramifications are. And same with their policy program, like this recent idea of giving out dual medals and allowing the displaced girl to go on and compete at the next level. CIF has not ever brought that to a public meeting. And, any other change like that would have come to a public meeting, right? So this perfect photograph where it shows, I think that was that long jump? Or that's probably triple. Yeah, maybe triple jump. He won the triple jump and he won the high jump. He had the highest jump and the longest jump in the triple jump, and they got third in long jump. And so, they did this thing where they gave out a second medal, a special one, to A.B. Hernandez.
So co-champion. When did this, because this wasn't, this is new for this year. We didn't see this last year. So this is a result of the public outcry. Do you think that the attention, the public outcry that and President Trump administration and the pressure, I know the Department of Justice, the Office of Civil Rights has launched several investigations into California, and they're currently under investigation for violation of Title IX policies. But in response, this is what they're doing. They're still allowing AB and other males to compete, and now, they it's like co-champions. And
it's so destabilizing, or so I don't know, the emperor has no clothes, right? Like this poor girl, she gets her 15 minutes of fame. This is her one chance to be the state champion and to have all eyes on her. And she's worked so hard, right? Since probably she was, 3 years old to become a fantastic athlete and dedicated so many hours. And, I was at the state meet on Saturday, and I watched A.B. Hernandez. He had to, he's of course the only athlete who's competing in both triple jump and high jump, as well as long jump, because you could never have an athlete become so specialized at that high of a level that they could do these very different kind of jumps, right? The high jump and the triple jump. But he's the one athlete that can do it. And he's running back and forth across the field, like, hurdling over the ribbons to get between the two events, because he's competing in multiple events. It's like a 3-ring circus where he's like the main show, and all these professional photographers are filming him and watching it all happen. And, he high jumped 5'10". The lowest jump in the boys category at the state championship is 6'4". So he was still a half foot away from the last place high jumper in the boys. So, he's a decent athlete, mediocre, right? He's probably somewhere, on the lower end of an average varsity team. He's nowhere near a male athlete at the state level. In all 3 events, he would have finished last place, but he won the girls division. So, and 2 of them, third in the other. And
that's a good point that he can compete in so many. My daughters have competed in track, and you're limited to the events because you just risk of injury, and you just can't physically do that. You can't. You have to eventually, maybe you can do the relay and an 800, or if you're going to do, I was just talking to Ella, who does the triple jump, but she couldn't do three different jumps. Like that would be way beyond her capacity. But for a male could do that when competing against other females, and that's not fair.
Yeah, it's really, everyone knows it's not fair. Thank God there were a bunch of men who are wearing their Save Women's Sports t-shirts. We're not allowed to like boo or say that's wrong or even really talk amongst ourselves, but we are allowed to wear, our t-shirts in. So yeah, and they put the free speech area nowhere near the entrance or where people were gathered. It was like, I think Sonia Shaw put a photo up. It was like a half mile away on the other side of the high school. They just don't want people to even be able to talk about it.
What is the free speech area?
So yeah, so CIF, I was at the section championship last week at the same high school, and I brought in my signs. This is what they look like, right? Little signs that just say, hey, CIF, girls sports are for girls. Or I think the other one says this is discrimination, Title IX is protect girls. And I was allowed to bring my signs in, and there were, I think some mothers had their signs saying, kind of cheering on their daughters in the 800, I noticed. So there were signs allowed. But the state meet a week later, big signs saying no banners, no flyers, no signs. And so, this is the other sign I sometimes carry around when I go to school board meetings, just because it shows just how unfair it is, to these girls, that who might be looking to sports as a way to get the attention of recruiters to go onto college level. And then they get put next to a boy, or they don't even, until this season, they don't even get a chance to show up to the state meter. We have these really big invitationals in California, Arcadia, Mount Sac Invitational, and these girls aren't getting to even compete at that level. Yeah, that is a great photo. I mean, he's showing off, I call it stolen valor. His Letterman jacket shows he has won the league championship, every year. Oh, there it is. There it is. The state championship, the finals. And it is multiple sports, including girls volleyball, which, his teammates have, they have a lawsuit against the school district and CIF because it was, unsafe to have a boy on their team and in their locker room. So
you're right. Yeah. This is haunting. This makes me so, when I saw this photo, all the patches just hanging, all the awards, right. It's to me, it just makes me angry. It makes my blood boil.
That just think about that girl who, that's her one chance to be the league championship, the league champion, and to get that patch for her Letterman jacket. And then it goes to a boy, and you can just look at his body frame. He's 5'10", which, some of those girls are taller, but his body composition, his body fat, I'm guessing is about 8 or 10%, maybe 7% body fat. Mm-hmm. Girls can't get below 14% without, having like stress fractures and, you won't menstruate, females have more body fat. So he's got this huge advantage because he can be this lean. And then you look at, the way his knees and his hips, that ratio is so different for a male athlete, which gives you so many advantages. And his broader shoulders, that picture just, tells 1,000 words, right? It's also crazy.
A lot of the images just, they say a lot. Again, the shared podium, the girls that, what I liked, there's a video, we'll go back to this one, where her name, Malia, after everyone stepped down, she jumped back on the number one spot, stood there, and everyone cheered, "Go, Malia!" And so I like that little act of rebellion, like just getting up there and like, I'm really number one.
Yeah, so, and we should point out too, right? The reason why she has wider hips is because we actually, in some ways, have the superior physical body because we can grow babies inside us, right? We have more flexibility and we have wider hips, and our bodies are shaped differently. When girls tend to get breasts as they get older, which, it hurts in sports, but it's great for creating life. And so, we need to let our girls know that, it's like, your body is just amazing.
And that's why the Title IX was created to bring fairness to sports, because females, and you were an athlete, that females did not have equal funding, equal opportunity. And if they wanted to play a sport, there wasn't a girls team or a women's team, so they would have to plan a male team, and they couldn't compete because of inherent biological differences. But in order to change that, in order for fairness, so that girls could compete in sports, because girls love sports too, and they want to compete. They don't play them just for fun. They play them because they
Right.
want to win.
Yes.
This isn't just a social hour. This isn't a
Mhm.
learning time. This is about playing to win and be superior and to get scholarships, collegiate scholarships, and win awards, all of the things. So Title IX was created in order to bring fairness in funding and equal opportunity to women and girls. And the fact that it's being twisted now by so-called feminists to include men who identify or feel like a woman, just it basically then Title IX doesn't exist anymore. If it's not a binary, there's no reason for it.
Yeah, it's I'm still so disappointed in all my feminist friends that I had in the past. I don't have them anymore because they can't understand how wrong it is to let a male who wants to be called a woman, or in the case of these kids, they're calling themselves non-binary or gender fluid or gender queer or bigender. The kids learn 13 gender identities in California schools, and they can to tell girls or women they don't get to have their own spaces, their own bathrooms or locker rooms or shelters or their own prisons. That's just the most crazy thing that women aren't fighting for right now. So
yeah, it is. It's a crazy thing that women are fighting for. Why do you're in California, and my friend Kelly, there's Sonia. Why is it that you think that there aren't more progressive women fighting, or maybe it might be secret supporters, but why is it there's not more fighting for women and girls?
I'd say there's three main ways they come after you, right? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to come after your job. So if you have any kind of job where you might want to get a promotion, a raise, become maybe a professor, or become the school principal, or any kind of job advancement, say goodbye to that. They'll come after your livelihood. If you own your own business, they'll take away any chance of you to make money. They'll go on Nextdoor or Facebook or all these different places. They can say, don't support this bigot, transphobic person. So they come after your job, your livelihood, and then they'll come after your kind of social network. They'll come after your friends in your neighborhood, friends. If you're in a parent group, you'll get kicked out of parent groups. And then the next thing is they try to break down your family, and they'll contact, maybe your adult kids, or they'll contact grandkids or their ex-wives, and they'll say, hey, this person is hateful, bigoted, transphobic. And then they'll try to get these ties to be broken between child and parent. This is kind of public knowledge that my daughter and I are estranged. I don't want to cry, but it's one of the, and, she has lots of wonderful friends that are still in this LGBTQ community. So I'm seen as somebody who trying to hurt those kids when I'm actually trying to help those kids, right? They're amazing, wonderful kids. But it breaks up families. And so most people can't risk that. They can't risk losing their family, their livelihood, they're being socially ostracized. And then, like my case, I've spent, I don't know, $50,000 on attorneys, right? I have to have attorneys to represent me in custody cases and, in cases with the medical part of this, and cases with my former employer, so that it takes a special kind of situation where you're willing to risk it all. But in my case, I watched my daughter's friends having top surgery while they were still, in junior high school and high school. And I just can't believe that can be happening in a small town without people saying something's wrong.
So then in areas where there isn't this cost in more conservative areas, where the majority of folks, and I know a lot of them, even in Wisconsin and everywhere, they need to stand up, because if there just needs to be parents standing up, pointing out the truth. I think, though, sometimes we are seeing it more, but we didn't see it before because they didn't think it could happen. And while they were supportive and like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, I disagree with that, they'll tune into the podcast about it, but they didn't really talk about it out loud because that's not going to happen. Like that's not going to happen in my community until it does. Like you said, until the first like radically woke counselor comes to your school district, or there's a teacher that's holding secret GSA meetings, and the ACLU comes in to represent a family where there's a even girl identifying as a boy and wanting to use the male bathrooms. That that young kids, and that's something that's happened in many states like Wisconsin. So it will eventually reach you. These things do. I mean, look at that toolkit that you showed me. The date on that's 2013. Just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future. And it might even be happening now and you just don't know it, because kids are notorious for kind of keeping things quiet from their parents. They just don't want a big deal. So what is your advice to families that they are in more conservative areas and there isn't a big political cost for them to stand up and to go on social media, to say something, to go to school board meetings, to vote for candidates that will say, we will not allow gender ideology in this school? What's your advice to them?
I should mention there's two examples that just come to mind of just incredible people in the state of California. Right here in, I think it's Placer County, we have a physician who works for UC Davis. His name is Arthur de Lamour. I think it's Lomier. Anyways, Arthur's the first name. He's a pediatrician, gastroenterologist, clinical professor. And he speaks out on this issue because, he's a former Army physician. So he's retired from the Army, but works for the university. He's tenured. He's a Catholic. And he's willing to speak at the state legislature. And, he's got medical students who are, he teaches, they're his students, and they've asked him to please don't retire. You're just amazing because you speak out on this issue of the gender, the medical scandal behind all of this. And he was at a recent legislative hearing where he talked about how dangerous it is to have kids socially transitioned at school. That's the first step to being medicalized. So, he's tenured professor. He's close to retirement. He's a fantastic father and man to be speaking on this issue. And he's a physician. So, and then the other person is someone like, Sonia Shaw, of course, school board president, who's running for the state of California Department of Education superintendent. So please vote for Sonia or any of the, or Steve Hilton. He's also running for governor. And then I was going to mention Jessica Tapia, who is a school teacher who she actually got fired, I think, for speaking out on this down in Southern California. And she won a $300,000 lawsuit because, they were violating, I think it was her religious freedom, right? To speak against what she saw as lying to children. So, the more teachers we get who will speak out, and I know some wonderful teachers up and down the Central Valley. And then, there's also teachers here in Davis that, whisper to me, they know this is wrong, but there's lots of conservative areas of California where you do see teachers and coaches and leaders just sort of speaking out on this.
Well, there was just a big case Mirabelli, and that's setting. Yes. Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that is positive news from it's happened in California, but it's the effects this decision has repercussions throughout all of America.
Right. And, I'm not an expert on that. I think it's down in Escondido, which is really close to where, I'm from, that San Diego area. And yeah, it's two teachers, right? I should know this. I had it printed out a while ago, but my mind is so filled with sports right now and the medical side of this.
Because and I've talked about it too but the Mirabelli case, it was with teachers and had to do with compelled speech, but it was keeping secrets from parents.
Yeah, exactly.
And that the state of California was told. I mean, first of all, we have just from June, the Mahmoud v. Taylor, which made it clear that schools cannot keep secrets from parents. That's something that should not have had to be restated by the U.S. Supreme Court, but was, especially when it comes to a family's deeply held religious beliefs, that parents have the right to opt their kids out of controversial curriculum, and that they need to be that curriculum needs to be presented to them, and they need to have that opportunity to opt out. And in the case of Mahmoud in Montgomery County, Maryland, they not only were not providing parents an opt-out, they were telling parents there was no choice. Your kid was compelled to learn about gender identity and gender ideology and comprehensive sexuality education. And the Supreme Court stepped in and said, absolutely not. That parents, they reasserted the fundamental right of parents to direct the care and upbringing of their children. And we're celebrating this June 1st. I should mention that we're celebrating June as Parental Rights Month in Moms for Liberty, and celebrating Pierce versus the Society of Sisters. But so Mahmoud was already in place, but California, in defiance of that, said, no, we are sticking with our policies, which allow teachers and actually compel them to keep these secrets from parents. And two teachers got involved. And I don't want to get too far in the details without my notes, but the Supreme Court said that sided with reality and with parental rights, and said that the state of California does not have the ability to compel these teachers to keep secrets from parents. So that's a big one, though. This is still a case. This case is still in process. I know that's when I was discussing it with lawyers who know more about this than we do. They took the good from that, the signal from the Supreme Court that they were still reaffirming and standing with parents and reaffirming parental rights, but this is still an ongoing case. So a lot of this stuff. So in California, I know that it's a state that doesn't have a lot of respect for parental rights, and often will keep secrets from parents. Is that something that is still the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's, the teachers are pretty clear at the public schools that they think their role is to keep a child safe. And the way gender identity ideology has been taught to them is that a child knows themselves best, and that the trusted adult, this is part of the curriculum, the trusted adult could be any adult in their life who takes an interest in them and supports them in their authentic self, basically. So they teach kids that the trusted adult could be a coach, a school counselor, the principal, a paraeducator, it could be just about anybody in their life. And so the teachers really like this idea that, oh, well, if the child says, it could be a second grader, third grader, my mom doesn't let me wear dresses at home, or, when I come to school and it's a boy, the teacher will be like, well, I can, I want to support you here at the school. And then the teachers feel good about themselves, right? They're doing something that they see as, making a difference in a child's life, and the child feels happy and excited, and they get celebrated at school. They become the special trans kid in the classroom. So yeah, I think it really does come from the, a teachers union, or the kind of the way it's brought into the, and again, most teachers probably 95% in Davis are women. They get together in their staff room and they socialize together. And so it's really important to have that group think and all kind of, share the same belief or way of teaching. And so you just have it in the classroom where teachers think it's perfectly okay not to include parents, to have special names or pronouns in the classroom.
Yes, separate medical records, not following for. And I'm going to read, just so that clarification in my notes about Mirabelli, that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that in the case Mirabelli versus Bonta, this case challenged California's policies that allowed schools to facilitate gender transitions for students while keeping parents in the dark. In the ruling, the court said, and I quote, that the state's policies cut out the primary protectors of children's best interests, their parents. So that is a very positive direction. But as you see, so, you have several big elections that will be very important for California, and one in which Moms for Liberties, we have endorsed Sonia Shaw in a statewide race. It's the first time we've endorsed in a statewide race, but she is running for the state superintendent of public education. So we wish her all, like, I know right now there's voting going on right now. So, and she definitely, as a school board president in Chino Valley, correct? She is standing firm on all of the issues that we care about, fighting for parental rights, fighting for biological reality. And she and Sophia just recently held a press conference about what's happening in California as far as sports. So where does everything stand right now with A.B. Hernandez? What just happened over the weekend and what's going on in the future?
So A.B. Hernandez is actually, this is the third year he made it to the state championship. In 2024, it wasn't known that he was trans, right? I'm sure a lot of people knew, but at the state meet, he ended up just getting the first place, the girls medal. So the other athlete got nothing. Then last year was the first pilot year. And then this year, again, the same thing. But this year he competed in 3 events and won the long jump. Sorry, he won the triple jump, high jump, and then got third in the long jump. It says on his social media, or his mother's, and some of the groups down there that, the trans pride groups, that he's not planning to compete at the college level because they don't accept transgender athletes. And that's not true because, I've been following the junior college, community college level sports here in California. They are 100% into the idea that, male athletes can compete in the women's category. So I was attending the Santa Rosa volleyball games where there's a 200-pound man competing. His last name, I think, is Gomez, competing in the women's category. And there's a lawsuit there as well where the teammates are suing the state of California community college system and the Santa Rosa College for violating their Title IX rights and having a male, in their locker room in their sports. I think one of the girls actually got a concussion in a practice where he smashed the ball at her. So A.B. Hernandez plays volleyball. He's also a hitter. He plays that role at the line or at the net. He may end up competing next year in women's volleyball or track and field at the junior college level. I don't know for certain what his plans are.
Yeah, but for now, right now, walking away with a lot of championships, and this weekend, are there going to be more events, or is there going to be?
This was the end. So the state championship. So there was a section finals, and then a week later was masters. And it's brought together several different divisions within the section. And then this last one was a state championship. So that's, there's no national championship at the high school level, but you can see where he would have placed in the nation. It's probably in the top 2 or 3. I haven't looked this week to see, but we sing it across the U.S. I think there's at least 5.
Yes, you can see right here we have, and this is a sophomore. And the subject of one of the SCOTUS cases that will be decided, Becky Pepper Jackson. This is West Virginia, so this is a red state. This is a red state, but this boy just won the girls' state championship in shot put as a sophomore, and the ACLU. I listened. I was there in DC during oral arguments. The ACLU was swearing up and down that BPJ was just a mediocre athlete, no difference. Actually doesn't do as well as the girls on the team. Is actually middle of the pack. They made a lot of arguments like that. And look, as a sophomore, he just beat out all the girls in the state.
Right. Yeah. I mean, high school shot put, I think it's several pounds different and different size, right? Because boys have bigger hands, and I think their upper body strength is like 40% greater than girls, especially in this kind of motion, right? That punching or that pushing motion. And of course, he can also spin around faster as he's, getting ready to throw. There's so many advantages you have as a male shot putter. So.
And if anyone wants to know more about this, follow Kristen Wagner and Alliance Defending Freedom, who made those arguments before SCOTUS, and and follow them and the good work that they're doing. Then I think I have, again, BPJ smokes the competition, West Virginia State track meet, and told the things that will never happen. Again, this will never happen. They just want to have fun. They just want to play. Sport is all about inclusion. Again, and I think that's how to say that it's not about winning, that it's not about competing is wrong. But to say that girls must be compassionate to these boys. What about them? What about their rights? What about what they have earned? And why should girls sacrifice truth in order to make someone feel good? I think all the messages that are being sent are so backwards.
I'm also so tired too, I'm sorry, of people saying, why don't the girls just boycott or forfeit or, not show up to the track? I mean, this is like their one chance, to compete in sports. And, think about the pressure you felt as a teenager. And they didn't make this problem, right? It's the adults. And why not just ask all of the officials at the track meet not to show up? Like, we saw that in Maine where a pole vault official said, I'm not going to, do the state meet if you're going to allow a boy in the girls category. And he said, I'm just not going to be an official. If all the officials did that, they couldn't hold the track meet, right? Or if all the coaches said, hey, we're going to show up to CIF and say, no, we want to protect our girl athletes. We want to defend them. There's no reason the adults aren't speaking up. There's no reason we don't have coaches, officials just lining up saying enough. But yeah, I just, to ask girls to do this, we had I think 9 teams in California forfeit this fall rather than play against AB Hernandez in volleyball. But that's a lot easier when it's, a league game and it's your whole entire team. And, they could say, the parents would say it's because of a safety issue, which it is. Yes. That's a little easier to forfeit. But
you're ask. Right. And I agree with Sage Steele with what she said, that often, why are the girls even competing? Why are they? Well, why? Let's stop asking all the kids to do the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
Need to do that. The adults need to be a part of that. One thing that I like that the girls do, like what Malia did, do a little, if you can do some small act of rebellion, or Alexa Anderson, when they respectfully didn't go up on the podium and they stood off to the side. There's a way that you can try to show, or you can, like our friend Jennifer say, wear some XXXY gear, wear a hat, wear something that shows a wink, like,
yes.
I don't agree with this. Like, this isn't, but in talking to my friend 7-year-old Ella Frei, when I asked her why aren't more girls speaking out, she said, she's got her parents' support and she is just an unusually amazing, strong girl. But some of her friends they are depending on athletic scholarships to go to the college of their dreams. And the parents and the girls are very afraid to speak out because they think they could lose their scholarship. And considering the way that Ella is being treated and the way these girls like Riley Gaines, Alexa Anderson, Sophia, all the girls that stand up, the way they are treated by some very small group, but a group of staff members or bullies, it's understandable that they are worried that this could have a detrimental effect on their future. So even very supportive parents and kids kind of shy away from being too public, because until there is more buy-in by, I think, even professional female athletes have nothing, they really don't have anything to lose because they've made their money, they've done well in their sport. We need just more people to stand up to make it safe for everyone to do so. It's such a small number that can make that change. And I'm happy to see what a lot of these girls are doing all on their own. The press conferences they're holding, the walkouts they are staging. It's amazing that the kids and the girls are finally saying enough. If the adults won't protect us, then we're going to protect ourselves. I think it's very brave of them, but I think that a lot of adults should really really think about it's their time to protect the girls. Kids shouldn't have to be doing this on their own. That's what
I agree 100%.
Well, thank you for coming on. And tell everyone, what is your X handle? How can people follow you, support you? You have a lot of, do you have a website? How can people support you and what you're doing?
I actually now on, Facebook I use a lot too. It's Beth Bourne, and I set everything to public, and it's a really good way to share just a lot of information. I think on X I'm at Bourne_Beth 2345. But sometimes you just put my name in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it out there.
There's a lot of viral videos of things I've done. And then the other one is on Instagram. I think I'm Beth Bourne in Davis, California. Maybe if there's an underscore there. But
now.
I tell people, I'm pretty fortunate. I just like, people just to kind of share what's happening in their lives over this issue and just supporting me online. The places where people can really support, if you have the means, would be a group like ICONS, Independent Council for Women's Sports. They help out these athletes in the lawsuits that are being filed against the state of California and in other states. So ICONS is a wonderful group. And Moms for Liberty, has made a huge difference in my life because they're just, almost every state, chapters and counties across California. I think there's 14 chapters in our state. And it's just a great way to connect with other, like-minded parents or, you don't have to be a parent, women who want to kind of fight to protect our kids and our daughters. So,
yes, you can follow us and you can go for more information, momsforliberty.org. But I want to just put this stuff again to follow Beth. And I'll put in the comments links to, there's a lot of great organizations, Alliance Defending Freedom in Wisconsin. We have the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We have Southeastern Legal Foundation. We have the America First Legal. We have ICONS. We have, He Cheated. There's it has the stats. So if anyone ever says you got to go to, and I'm going to put this all in the comments, places to go if you need just some quick stats to combat, this never happens, or why do you care about something that happens so little? Well, first of all, it's about truth, and this is a corrupting influence on all of our institutions. But when you don't know what a woman is, you should not be in charge of educating America's youth. And I think it's just had just a huge impact on culture, on education. Look at our proficiency numbers. I mean, since the radicals have taken over so many of our cherished institutions, those institutions have started to fail kids and families and America. So we need to take them back and get back to what's right and what's decent and fairness and all of the things. So that's my TED Talk for today. But
That's great.
what are your final words to everyone who's listening?
I think my final words are: don't be afraid to just use your voice and just say it like you see it. You know, we don't have to use their language. We don't have to pretend to go along with something. You know, a boy should grow up to be a man and a girl should grow up to be a woman. And yeah, girls should have their own sport. So just practice, you know, like it's really scary if you don't like public speaking to go to your school board meeting. But it gets easier with time, and you don't have to be perfect. Just take the opportunity to speak whenever you get the chance. So
yes, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yes, exactly.
Don't wait till it's so ready. I mean, my first school board speech. Oh my! I think I threw up in the bathroom the first. Like, I've never done this before. It's a scary thing to stand up in front of people who you will see at the grocery store, that you will see in the carpool line. I think it's easier to stand up before a group of strangers and give your opinion than a group of your community, people you know, that your kids have play dates with. And then you're worried about, how is this going to affect my kid in the school? Well, I'm here to tell you that you will survive, because you can't get more outspoken than me and Beth, and we're still standing. Like,
exactly.
You will survive it. And not only that, it gives you a superpower, because when we all care what people think. So I never say I don't care. I do. When I say I don't care what people think, it means I care about something else way more than the opinion of someone I don't even really know. Or even if I do know them, I care about truth. I care about kids. I care about girls. I care about America. Care about our culture and our civilization more than rando guy that doesn't have his real name in his handle on X that's making fun of me. Like, we've got to not care about what people think, especially people who hate us. We need to care more about our families, the future, and our daughters in this situation. We have to show them that we will stand up and fight for them. They have to see that in us so that they can be strong and fight for themselves.
Exactly.
And you've done a lot for that. So I thank you. And I really hope that in time, the relationship between you and your daughter is restored. I'll pray for you. And I thank you so much for what you do. You are at these meets. A lot of the video that is on Outkick that we see at Fox, that video you've taken. So I thank you very much. I want to spotlight and have everyone know, and I'll put up that here's Beth. She's the mom that is going to these events and taking these videos, and you get a lot of heat for it. They're not very nice to you, are they?
No, but that's okay. They'll call us names, or do all kinds of crazy things to try to get us to be quiet. But I like to think, we're like Teflon on us, right? It'll just slide right off. So go ahead and say whatever you want to us.
Yeah, say whatever you want. It doesn't matter because you care about something else more. Something else matters more than that. And when they are smearing you, you are over the target, because they only smear who they fear. If you're not, I think is it Harmeet said this, Harmeet Dillon, who is the head of the Office of Civil Rights. She said about SPLF, the Southern Poverty Law Center, if you're not on their hate map and you call yourself a culture warrior, you should be really considering how effective you are. And I'm like, yes, no one wants to be on a hate map, but in this case, if you aren't on their radar and you call yourself a culture warrior, then you're not very effective. So you're very effective. I'm very effective. Moms for Liberty is effective. So thank you so much for all that you do. Everyone follow Beth and stay tuned. And I know that you will be in the fight for California, and we're all praying for sanity in California. It's too beautiful of a state to just let go. It is gorgeous. And it's looking forward to being there. I actually will be in San Diego on Wednesday. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Hey, Ella. It's so nice to see you again. We were just on a show together, Lindsay's show.
Hello, great to be here. I'm excited to talk with you again.
How did the rest of the school year? Are you done now?
Yeah.
Okay. And today you're preparing for what? Something special, right?
This is I have a couple practices before sectionals for long jump, track.
That's great. So you're heading sectionals. That's the precursor to going to state, right? Yeah. All right. Well, good luck. We'll be crossing our fingers for you. But we've talked about the story of everything that's happened in New Richmond, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit because and talk about how this relates to here, hold on a second. I want to bring this right. Okay. All right. So thinking about how hard that you have worked in this sport and other sports, and then watching on social media, on the news, and watching what's playing out in California with A.B. Hernandez, a biological boy who is competing and winning in the track and field female categories. And you probably don't know this, but on Friday, that is the California State meet. So it's a big deal, just like what we have in Wisconsin. And he's going to be there competing against biological females. And the California governor, Gavin Newsom, isn't doing anything about it. Obviously, we know that the state of California is extremely woke. They have been fighting, they have been the center of this controversy, even though the Trump administration has warned them, even though the Department of Education has said they are under several Title IX investigations. Still, they persist with these kinds of policies that allow males to compete in all female categories. So how did that make you feel? How does that feel?
That's scary. I took a little look because I've been seeing her getting first place and all these things. Like, I'm like, how is he doing it? So I look at his like top things, and his jumps for specifically the events that I'm doing are like the top boy in my school's jumps. Like, I have like a really good kid in my school. He's a boy, and that's what he's jumping. So it makes me wonder, like, and he's getting first place at conference and all that stuff. And it's just like, why do you have to interfere with women's sports when you'll do fine in male sports? Like, that's what it was crazy to me, because I was looking at his things and I was like, why do you need to come in here when you'll do just fine on your own? I don't know. It's scary to say the least, because of how easy it is for him to just take that role and get first place and feel like nothing's wrong with it. And I could never imagine being one of the girls competing with him, because when you're on the runway and you're back there, you're talking to the teammates. Like, I could never imagine how uncomfortable that is to just know that you have like no chance because you have a biological male who's obviously going to be better than you taking over that spot.
So what's the difference? What is your best jump and compared to his? You would know about this more than I do.
but what's
Okay.
how much of a difference is that?
So I'm not the best jumper. I mean, I'm the best at my school for long jump. So I jumped like a 16-1 at my last meet, which isn't amazing, obviously, but I looked at his number and he's jumping like a 20. That's what my D1 like guy in my school is doing.
A D1, yeah, a D1
Yeah.
male. And
most of the girls
there's-
it's like 17 for being good. Like I was looking at my sectionals and they're jumping like 17. That's what the really good girls for my sectionals is doing. A 20 is just
there's no way a girl can compete with that. Not even sorry, it's the Wi-Fi here, but that's fine because we can edit it. So I'm gonna look up. Actually, I'm gonna take that chance to. I want to look up the record.
because he's doing like all of the jumping events, which those are like an individual one. It's like harder to take over those than it is like a relay. And his triple jump is almost like my school records jump. His long jump is out of the roof far. I could never imagine.
So I'm looking this up right now. Okay, so I'm comparing. I just pulled up the record. So you can see. So here's something interesting. In the 2025 state championships, the triple jump varsity, AB Hernandez jumped 42, 2 3/4. So is that 42 feet?
Yeah, 42 feet for the triple jump.
For those of us who weren't that. So 42 feet, okay. And looking comparably, 2025, the boys triple jump state championship. The number one guy, his name was Keith, jumped 51 feet, 51 feet. So if AB was jumping in the male category, he would have placed 13th as a male in the California State Championship. But as a female, pretending to be a female, in the female category, he's number one, far and away number one. He jumps 2 feet farther than the female, Kira, who was actually the one who should have won. She jumped an impressive 40 feet in the triple jump. So, but that still, she couldn't outperform against this AB. Now in the long jump, AB Hernandez jumped 20 feet and 8 inches. That would have had him placed last in the male category, while he placed second in the female category. And then in the girls' high jump, he jumped 5 feet 7 inches. As a male, that would have had him ranked in 9th place, but in the female category, he was number one. So when you hear those statistics, how does that make you feel, knowing that as a male, he would have been last place or at the bottom in California? But in the female category, he's sweeping, he's getting all the medals. Those will translate into scholarships. He's on the podium. And only recently,
have they allowed now? They have two first place winners, him and the biological girl. So they're sharing first place. How does that make you feel to hear that?
That's annoying because we work really hard as girls to secure that spot. And you know what he could do? He could just be in his male and work even harder and work for that spot instead of just coming to the female sports and just doing it and being better than everyone. Because that's what it is. A biological male will always outdo a woman in sports, especially. So that's why he just comes over to the female sports, jumps to 20, and that's it. Or he could just sit out there and work hard actually and secure a spot in the male. And he's not like for the champions, that's still crazy. Like that's still getting past like conference, regionals, sectionals, state. Like you're going far. Even it just feels like it's never enough for him, you know?
Yeah.
Like
And you talked about something else because everyone's talking about it's not unfair in the sport, girls are missing opportunities, and that's 100% true. But what about what goes on in practices or as you're competing? You're spending a lot of time together. You're traveling together, you're training together. My daughter plays different sports, basketball. There's always basketball dinners. You're There's the moms and dads are getting together and doing potluck. There's always team bonding activities because you're really trying to build this cohesive unit. There's a lot of times that you need to spend with your teammates. I just think you're right. That's really uncomfortable to be in this position where this is a guy, and obviously a ton of attention. So every meet, your face is plastered all over as national news because you're competing with or against A.B. Hernandez. I just think that's so unfair to the girls. It's not even about the sport anymore. It's all about the controversy and the drama. And, instead of it being about the girls, it's all about the boy.
mm-hmm.
And boys already, let's face it, when it comes to collegiate sports and when it comes to, national sports, boys get a lot of attention already. How does that, what do you think about that as a teenage female athlete where you're trying to do your sport, but it's not always the case where other than the girls' parents, it's not like there's tons of attention for girls. And that's something that as a mom of female athletes that I would like to just you want more money, more investment, more opportunities for girls and girls sports. That's why Title IX was created. It was created to level the playing field. You aren't aware of this, but in the 70s, before Title IX, there weren't in many high schools there weren't girls sports, and in colleges there was no opportunity for girls. They couldn't. There wasn't a team for that. There wasn't the funding, and that's why we have Title IX. So they're mowing the lawn. They're mowing the lawn at the White House. That's actually. I bet you never saw that before.
No.
Mowing the lawn at the White House right there.
Wow.
Yes, it's a little crazy, but so all eyes are on these meets because of this boy, and I think it's taking away from the girls. Jen Say put out this great ad. I'll play it at the end of this podcast. She put out a great ad. Look at her, where she's saying, "Look at the girls. Stop looking at the sports. Pay attention to them. This is their moment. This is their sport. This is what they work for, and it's time to focus on the girls." Do you think that it's sort of like the situation that you are currently facing in New Richmond, Wisconsin, that nobody really talked about this issue of boys and girls bathrooms in New Richmond because no one thought it was happening or that it could happen. Parents were blissfully unaware of the fact for several months that a biological boy was using your bathrooms in your high school. And it was this open secret. Finally, guys told their parents what was happening. Started to and once they were aware, they were outraged. They fought back. That a lot of girls, a lot of teenagers, a lot of parents, they're not speaking up because they think it can't happen to them. Do you think that they think that somehow like that's something in California? And considering what happened in Richmond, do you have cautionary advice for people who think it can't happen to them?
Well, one thing that I think me and my mom both agree on is stay connected to your school. Go to the school board meetings. We had never been to a school board meeting before this whole thing happened. And just really pay attention because there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and stuff that your kids know that are too scared to tell anyone because they don't want the target on their back. They don't want to be that kid at school that goes home and tells their parents like everything. But sometimes there's things that are going on that nobody knows about until you shine the light on it and you dive deeper and you realize, well, there's more than just this going on in our school. You begin to find out a lot more than you would think, especially in my small town. This is kind of like one of those things where it's like, this is like, it doesn't even feel real. Why is it even a discussion? Like, why is a male even using the girls' bathroom? Why is a male doing girls' sports? It like is one of those things where it shouldn't even be a discussion, but it's happening. So I think one thing that's a big takeaway from everything is use your voice, speak up. Your words matter way more than you'd think. I never thought going up at that school board meeting for like a minute would go everywhere and everyone would see my face and hear my voice. I never thought any of that would happen to me, but it did. So I just think speaking your truth and being confident and standing on what you believe in will help you fight through everything, especially like I can firsthand saying that fighting what you're believing in helped me a lot, especially because teachers and stuff, a lot of things went on after the school board meeting, a lot of hate comments, a lot of students against me. And I had some crazy stuff going on with my teachers, excuse me, that I never thought would happen. And I don't know, being that target, especially kind of made me nervous to go to school in a way. But nerves are good, especially in sports. My coach always says nerves are good. That means you care about it. So I think just keep fighting for what you believe in. That's all I got from that.
Yes, I agree that you have fear. Everyone is going to feel fear. You're going to feel fear. It's the ability to work through it, overcome it, and still do what you need to do. It would be normal if you didn't have that fear. Of course, people say, I don't care what people think. You care what people think. What you're really saying is, yeah, I care what people think, but I care more about this. I care more about standing up for my sex or in my school. I care more about truth. I want to stand for truth. I don't want to be my friends. So that's the ability to care more about something that you want. Be alive. Say, oh, I don't care what it is. We all care. But there are those of us, girls like you, which are rare, that despite the fear and despite caring what people are saying or what teachers are saying about you, you're willing to do the right thing because you care about something else more. And you care about truth. This is just flawed to you. And I've talked to you many times. And it's the ability as a human being to know that something really wrong is happening and to not just kind of go on social media and be a keyboard warrior or talk in hushed tones about how you don't like it, but to be able to stand up and say something, even if it costs, even if there's a price, That's real courage. That's real, honest courage. And don't know if you have that kind of courage until you're faced with a trial, until you're tested. So when you are tested and you pass that test, you get a special gift. It's like it's this overwhelming feeling that that it did something special, and you've got a little bit of a superpower. And so that's like what I think people have that. And then when you do a courageous act, you kind of want to do another one. Like you get it's you can get there are people that get addicted or they have very bad habits, but there's also good habits. There's also seeking after truth and courage. And on the other side of that, you want more. You want to do more. You want to fight more. You want to and fight for good until you can win. Until you can at the end have this issue resolved. I think a lot of people assumed when President Trump was elected, this issue went away, and it didn't because the president is not a king, despite what all those anti-ICE protesters like to pretend. He operates under a constitutional system, a federal system. There's state laws, state statutes. And while he's setting the tone with federal policy, states like California are saying, you know what, we're not going to listen to you. And it's going to take, I believe, a Supreme Court decision as well as legislation on Capitol Hill that will finally, be the end of this horrible chapter. But we also have to operate at the state level and the school board level. And that's what we really affect change. That's how we affect change. You spoke to your school board. You got up in front of hundreds of people that you know in your community, which is the hardest thing to do. I'll tell you what. Sometimes it's easier to stand up in front of strangers and do a speech than it is to stand up in front of 400 people that you know that you see at the grocery store. Am I right? Like,
Yeah.
because strangers, you're like, oh wow, but people you know, like you're gonna see them. You're gonna see them tomorrow. You're gonna see them at the grocery store. You're gonna see them at school, and now they know who you are. Sometimes teens want to be more invisible, but what gave you the courage to do that? And what advice do you have for girls to find that courage in themselves?
Well, what gave me the courage to do that was the main thing. Like, I don't want this to keep going. I don't want girls to go through what I'm going through, what all the girls are going through right now at the high school. And I kind of wanted to just hopefully put an end to it or advise these men to take a look and maybe get a little empathy in them. Like, oh my gosh, what are we doing to these poor girls at our high school? Why are we allowing this to happen? That it was crazy to think that they thought it was okay. And when we asked, like, hey, like, well, what about this proposal? And they were like, no, like, I don't know. I don't want the girls that are coming into high school to have this kind of welcoming or be like, oh, great, this is like the high school I have to be with. I hope I don't see any males in the bathroom. It shouldn't even be a fear. And if I had to have like advice for anyone, just speak your voice, even when you feel like your voice doesn't matter, because I felt like my voice didn't matter and I didn't realize how much it mattered to everyone. And I think it's just such a big blessing because I never thought I would be this person that would be like broadcasted all across America. And it happened. It just doesn't feel real. And I think in the whole moment with everything going on with the school, I had that same feeling like this doesn't feel real. Like, why am I having to do this? And yeah, that's all I really got. Speak your voice.
I'll tell you that I just talked to a 14-year-old girl in Wisconsin who was in a bathroom stall and walked out and saw a biological male, like a man, an adult male. And she was terrified. And thankfully nothing happened to her, but I shouldn't say nothing, this happened to her. And this was enough. very just traumatized, unsettled, could not stop talking about it, had bad dreams about it, nightmares. And now at the age of 14, an 8th grader about to go into high school, now won't go to the bathroom alone anywhere other than her house. And she wants her mom or her sister to come with her. That's how traumatized she is. So what you're doing, you're giving a voice to that girl who's too afraid. She's only 14. She's too afraid to go to the media. She's too afraid to be public right now. But when she sees you, then that helps to give her courage. And even if she just can't be public, that we're doing it, that you are now becoming a protector of all of these girls. And this is I just had this conversation this week and I was heartbroken. It's happening. This is happening. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it. I don't think a lot of parents want to talk about it. Sometimes I think they're worried about the attention, but it's happening. It's happening a lot more than people think it is.
And if it doesn't stop now, it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah. Who's to say that the next time, now that this man has gotten away with this, the next time he doesn't try something else? Because this was a man who appeared as a man, like did not even attempt to look like a girl. And you hear stories in Maine, in California, in Colorado, right here in Wisconsin, where there are boys going into those locker rooms, and they are engaging in very inappropriate behavior. They're leering at the girls, and this is sexual harassment. This is absolutely sexual harassment, and this is why Title IX exists. But when we remove the sex-based category of Title IX, when you remove from Title IX, basically it's teeth, but this is to protect females and provide them opportunities, then it's worthless. Without Title IX, the binary nature of Title IX, we remove that binary nature, then Title IX is just words. They're just words. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have the power that it needs to have. And then before you know it, Ella, in your senior year, you're now competing against some male that would have been last if you competed against boys, but competing against girls because of biological advantages. He's now number one. Now he's on the podium, and you're left to participate in a humiliation ritual. Would you feel that? Do you think that's true? Private Gates says that when the girls have to stand for this is that to think that
You kind of cut out a little bit. The lawnmower.
I know. The lawnmower. All right. And I've got, I was saying.
You're talking about Riley Gaines.
Yes, Riley Gaines says that the act of having the girls stand on the podium with a male like A.B. Hernandez is forcing them to participate in a humiliation ritual. Do you think that's an adequate description? That's the humiliating thing to have these girls have to stand there on a podium with a boy?
Yeah, that I could never imagine having to do that because I don't even know how to explain it. I feel like I'd also just feel really angry because you can put in work like the rest of us. Like you could work hard and get that first spot in the male section. Like we are already working so hard for that first spot in the female section. It just feels like insulting almost that he thinks he can just come into the female section and get first place every time instead of going into his normal section and put in the work like the rest of us. Like his jumps weren't bad. Like he could have improved and got that first spot on that side and motivation, but Instead, he chose the easier route, the lazy route, the one where he knew he could get away with it. And I don't know why it always has to be the girls and stuff, but
Yes, you're right. That's a very good point. That's a good point. That we're not seeing this. We're not seeing this. That I'll start over there. You made a really good point. It's only the girls. We are only seeing girls have to suffer the humiliation, girls that have to give up the medals, girls that have to give up the trophies and the scholarships, and even take that all away, the girls that have to basically have a boy on their team, in their bus, in their locker rooms. But I don't know. I think that would make it really hard for the team to really come together with all of the issues and the fact that there is a biological male there pretending to be a girl. It's just weird.
It's brainwashing. It's kind of like throw him in there. You guys have to love him. He's your teammate. You have to cheer for him when he gets first place and he took your spot. Like, you have to do this. It's scary and weird.
That is a perfect way to say it. It's brainwashing. You have to love him. He's a girl. You have to celebrate him. Yeah, like you can't just. Charlie Kirk had a saying, because at first they say it's tolerance, it's acceptance, it's inclusion. And then you have to cheerlead it. Now you have to cheerlead it. You have to, oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great? And then you have to participate. And that's at the end where the girls have to actually participate in this humiliation ritual. It's not enough to be inclusive and to say, oh, to each their own. No, that's not enough. You have to pretend that boy is a girl, and you have to cheerlead it and participate in it. And that's wrong. You're right. That is brainwashing. And do you think it's worked on some girls, or do you think more girls are waking up?
I think that more girls are waking up, but it's kind of hard because they're kind of forced to almost love them in a way, like the mental illness. It's kind of like there's a saying where it's like, if my friend had an eating disorder, I wouldn't keep telling him to starve themselves. And if my friend had a mental health disorder, I wouldn't keep telling them, yeah, what you're doing is right. Like, I'm not going to support bad behavior. And I feel like, I don't know, I hope more women will rise up and hopefully see what's going on is wrong, and that you do have a voice and you can stop it. And I think with the brainwashing and stuff, because firsthand I experienced it already, like, you're being so hateful, you're not letting a guy into your bathroom. I'm not going to support a mental health disorder. I'll help you get to a single stall restroom. Like, I'll help get that private space for you, but you're not going to just come into my space and think you're going to get away with it. And I feel like, I hope that's what more girls, especially in California with his sport, I really hope that more girls will realize you don't have to get third place. You don't have to get second place. You could be the first place. You just have to stop him. And you have to talk, and you have to get a big group of people up, and you can stop it.
Some people say that the girls shouldn't get on the podium, that they should walk away. What do you think about that?
I've seen a clip, I think, of this girl that got first place, but he took over the first place. I think he was on the podium at first and he walked away, and then she went up there and then she took her picture with the medal, and she was holding up a 1 because she got the first place. In the moment, I don't know what I would do. I would not share a podium with him. I can tell you that. I would either wait for him to get off and go up and take my picture, but I would never share a podium, especially knowing how much I've worked for a spot like that, working so hard just for someone to swoop in and take it. I don't know. I wonder if he feels like bad or have any like remorse for what he's doing to the girls, especially because like mentally it's probably impacted him a lot.
From what I can tell, he does not feel bad. As a matter of fact, his mother and several activists and himself were upset that he had to share a podium because they felt that he won. He got that first place, and he shouldn't have had to share with a girl who was second place. To me, that just shows that the level of indoctrination and commitment that I think a lot of girls sometimes they want
to empathize and they want to imagine, oh, I bet his feelings are hurt, or we don't want to hurt his feelings. Well, he doesn't seem to mind hurting your feelings. He doesn't seem to mind taking your spot. He doesn't seem to mind interrupting your sport and making it a spectacle. So why should girls waste any time sympathizing with this male? And I think it's hard for me to believe that there's so many so-called feminists that support this sort of attitude.
You don't see any female athletes standing up for them.
So what is your response to that? That the girls are supposed to care about the feelings of these boys, but they're not supposed to care at all about how you feel. There's no reverse empathy. Like, I don't get it.
I don't understand it either. And it's kind of disturbing knowing that he doesn't see anything wrong with it. Like, not even a little bit, because it's really disturbing, honestly. If I was competing with him, it's already uncomfortable enough trying to get changed in the locker room with other girls. It's already uncomfortable enough trying to go to the bathroom with other girls, let alone competing against this person that you're supposed to love, you're supposed to include, even though he's taking your spots, he's breaking the records, he's getting your medals, he's getting everything that you have worked for. Because I can tell you right now, if that boy in my school who's like the best jumper, if he even just did his laziest jump, it would be way farther than mine. And it's just like the truth. And I don't know, it's really disrespectful in my opinion, because you work so hard, especially when it comes to sports and long jump and triple jump and stuff. It's very competitive because it's one of those events where it's just you. It's not a relay. You're not on a relay with other people where it's a big team thing. No, it's an individual at the end of the day. And you are the one working for it. You are the one controlling your ability to perform. And it's kind of just scary to see someone come out there, go no work, and still do better than you.
Well, and that reflects very real biological differences, because biological reality does exist. Males that go through male puberty, and even there's studies, even males that don't go through the full male puberty, they are born with greater lung capacity, larger muscle mass, all sorts of biological advantages that make it impossible for you to compete. That the most elite athlete, like you've heard, Serena Williams, who's the most elite tennis player in the world, if she competed against a really good tennis player that's a high school kid, but he's a guy, she would struggle to beat him. And it's not because she's not talented. She's extremely talented, but there are biological differences that make it impossible for her to beat this boy. It's real, and we can't deny it. And I think that it's so wrong for teachers in high school, especially like biology teachers, to be conveying this message to girls that somehow, if you wish upon a star that you're a girl, magic pixie dust and voila, you are one. No, you cannot erase those biological differences, not with whatever serum concocted by big pharma. There's nothing that takes that advantage away. And as a matter of fact, it causes a lot of harm to the individual who's taking these drugs and participating in this. I will tell you that A.B. Hernandez's mom has said earlier on that she had no idea. Do you know how his gender journey started? It started in school. In middle school, teachers started to secretly transition him. That's how this all started. So parents, cautionary tale when you think, oh, if they have their little rainbow club in middle school, it's no harm. It's indoctrination, just like you said. And even schools, they have these clubs and everyone says, oh, so innocent, but are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I firsthand kind of seen what it's like seeing someone trying to transform into someone who they're not. And it's really, really sad, especially like seeing in the cases I've seen, it's really sad to see them and they don't see anything wrong with it because, and it's sad to see them struggle and not even know it. And it's kind of hard to help them, especially because they are taught that it's right and it's okay. And especially when it comes to like athletics and stuff, they don't see anything wrong with it. And it's, you don't hear the athletes speaking up about it. You hear mostly the non-athletes because the athletes are scared to speak up about it. They're scared, okay, well, what if I get disqualified because I made a harassment quote or something to the other person? And it because they work so hard to get to that spot. And that's where it kind of gets scary in the athletic world because you are working hard, you deserve that spot, but you're scared to speak up about it because you'll get disqualified or kick you off the team or something like that.
And there are girls even in your school that would like to speak up, but they don't, and even their parents tell them not to because they're afraid of losing their athletic scholarships, their opportunities. There's a very real fear that, hey, if I say something and it gets picked up on social media, what if I lose that scholarship? What if that school I want to go to doesn't accept me? That's a very real fear and a very a reason why we don't see more girls stand up and why we need more to stand up because of just a small percentage. Even if just more girls stood up, pretty soon it would change everything.
Because and that's what it took. It didn't take just my voice. We had a lot of people reposting it, a lot of people commenting, a lot of parents' voices. When you all stand together, it can make a huge difference. And I think that's what helped my school district, the White House seeing everything, Tom Tiffany, Pennsylvania, Senate, like you, it doesn't just take one. And I think that's what helped me in the spot where I felt so alone at the beginning when it was just me at the school board meeting. I'm like, Mom, like, do you know how many people are here? You know how many people are having these opinions? And like this mom at the bathroom is like, hey, there's more standing with you than you would think. So then you speak up and you see what happens. And it just takes a lot of people to make a change. And I think that's something that everybody knows, but doesn't take into heart right away. They just get so fearful and they're like, well, I can't do it by myself. Well, good thing you're not going to do it by yourself. There's a lot of people that stand with you. And I think in athletics, if more girls just stood up for themselves and said their voice and said, I don't like this is wrong. Like, why am I competing with a male? I don't think this is okay. I think they could make a serious change, and especially in California. It's kind of crazy that this is happening too. It just doesn't feel real. Why am I kind of arguing about this? Why is there a boy in my sport?
That's 100% true. Well, I know you've got to go and get ready because you are going to be competing in the sectionals. So in closing, what's your final thoughts that you, in closing, what message do you want to send to other teenage girls across America?
One message that kind of helped me push through everything is your voice matters. And that was one thing that I definitely did not think mattered in the beginning. I'm speaking up at the school board. All I thought was like, this is scary. I don't want to do it. You can do it. It's only 1 minute of scaredness and it'll be over. A lot of people are agreeing. There's a lot of clapping. There's more people that agree with you than you would think. A lot of them are just quiet and the other side can get really loud at times. But you just got to speak up, and there's more people that are here with you to get you through everything, and they agree with you. And so just speak your voice.
That's great advice, Ella. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to talking to you again really soon. And definitely we have to make that introduction to Riley Beans happen really soon. But good luck with your sectionals and good luck with the summer. I'm actually going to be in St. Croix County at the end of June speaking at the Faith and Freedom Fest. So I hope to see you and your mom there.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.